All right, guys, welcome to Bottom of the Bill. This week we got our good friend Alex Hamby on the podcast. Hamby is a young blood on the scene right now, but he is a phenomenal drummer, really takes the work seriously. He's got a lot of projects he's working on, Patsy's Daydream, and then the new jazz project that he's working on with our producer here, one of our producers here, Chris Underdahl, called Time Wise. And I know they got a lot of cool stuff coming up. I love this conversation. He's got a great insight for someone who's so young and new at this thing, technically speaking. He's got a great insight to how it all works. And aside from, again, just being a phenomenal musician. So I'm super excited about all the stuff they have going on. This episode was just super fun. The conversations, the banter, all of it was really a good time. So without further ado, we'll start the episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. Enjoy. All right, guys, this episode's brought to you by Best Buds CBD Store. If you're like me, maybe THC isn't always the right high for you, or maybe the legal status of THC has you a bit hesitant to indulge. So at Best Buds CBD Store, they have an array of CBD and Delta-8 THC products. These guys truly care about their service, so everything is meticulously sourced and prepared to deliver a top-notch product and experience. If you head to their website, you'll find all kinds of educational information regarding Delta THC and CBD. Not to mention, if you use promo code BotB, that's BOTB pod, you'll save 10% on your order. This is not a one-time deal. If you use promo code BotB, every time you place an order with Best Buds, it will give you 10% off. That's in perpetuity, forever. So head over to bestbudscbdstore.com and start saving on all of your CBD and Delta-8 products. Enjoy, guys. All right, guys, we are sitting here with the owners of Kanine Social, Daniel Moffett and Ryan Irish. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good. How are you?
Doing good. Thank you for sponsoring the podcast. The event that we did yesterday really went a long way for us, and it was great. We had a great time doing it, and you guys helped out tremendously with that.
You're welcome.
So I want to talk a little bit about Wolfstock, the event that you guys have coming up. It's April 15th. Right?
That's right, April 15th. It's actually April 14th. We have a Friday night pre-party, and then April 15th is the full day festival.
Oh, okay. What's going on for the pre-party?
So Friday night, we've got Jason Leach and Marvel Years doing a Friday night show.
Marvel Years, I love Marvel Years.
Yeah,
they're so good.
Yeah, big time show set up. It'll be set up on our side turf in what we're calling our Disco Dreamland.
Okay.
So we've got a whole setup out there. And what else do we need to know about that? It's a $10 ticketed event. People that buy VIP tickets for Wolfstock, the festival on Saturday, will get access to that as well. And we'll have, some other stuff going on.
It'll also be the first time that you can purchase Wolfstock swag. So
hell yeah.
All of the gear, posters, bucket hats, all of that. So if you purchase that ticket Friday night, you're also going to be one of the first people to buy some of the Wolfstock swag that we sold out of last year by like 3 p.m.
Oh my God. So you guys were so you guys weren't expecting that last year?
No, not at all.
That's a good problem to have.
Yep, exactly. So we definitely focus more on the swag and retail this year. So
okay,
should be good.
Cool. And so what's this Disco Dreamland area that you have worked out? What's that consist of?
So we're working with our team, and Chris over there at our team is really kind of headlining the Disco Dreamland. So we're going to do it's going to be all tented in, lasers, fog machines. We're going to have some of the clouds with like the LED lights sprinkling through. So it'll be like a full like immersive experience that's added to the festival this year.
Awesome.
And some giant disco balls out there.
I dig it. So it's an interesting concept to kind of weave a festival kind of scenario into a dog park. What I've been seeing a lot of is the tap room dog park kind of combination, maybe some like acoustic acts playing, but you guys are doing like a full-on festival. What was the thinking behind that? And why would you want to take something like that on?
Yeah, that's right. So this is our second year doing it, and we're going a little bit bigger this year. We've been talking about doing it for 4 years, pretty much since we've been open. We're like, this would be cool to be able to do an actual dog-friendly music festival, right? Most music festivals, most people don't bring dogs. It's not something that your dogs want to go to. It's not geared for dogs. Our facility, obviously, Kanine Social is a dog-first facility. We just happen to be doing a full-day music festival. So last year was our first year doing it, primarily just local bands. And then this year we've kind of upped the game a little bit. Like we said, the pre-party is Jason Leach and Marvel Years, two pretty big names.
Yeah.
And then on Saturday, we've got, I think, another 12 or 14 bands throughout the day on 2 different stages. We've got a silent disco sponsored by the Icemen. So we're doing like a big igloo in our indoor space.
Very cool.
And it's just one of those things where it's like, all right, we can create a fun event that nobody else does. I mean, it's just something that Jacksonville needs. Everybody loves their dogs, they love music, and they love beer, so throw them all together, and that was Wolfstock.
I love that concept, man. It's so cool. Side Hustle played last year, I think, which is when you and I met and talked about partnering on the podcast stuff. So it's wild how much it's grown this year, like from, like you said, local bands and relatively unknown artists, and then this year you're getting like, Marvel Years is like a huge act, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's just for the Friday
pre-party
night. So the big names on Saturday, we've got Neil Francis headlining it.
Wow.
The DJ duo Neil Francis, and then we've got Max Frost headlining our side stage.
Okay.
Stoplight Observations. Vincent Anton's out. Obviously, the Honeyhounds locally are back. They're the big local name that they'll be part of the festival again. Future Joy's back out.
Hell yeah.
Who else? There's others that we're leaving out, but those are some of the bigger names that people are going to recognize. But they can find all that information online and on the flyers and posters they're going to see throughout town over the next month and a half or so.
Awesome, man. Yeah, Future Joy, just Honeyhounds, all those bands, it's gonna be great, man. It's awesome. Where do you want people to find the event? So what's the websites and the socials and all that stuff?
You can go to kaninesocial.com, and then there's a little link on there for Wolfstock. It's got all the details, where to purchase tickets for VIP tickets. It's a free GA event, so no tickets needed, but we do request that people go on there and just kind of purchase a free ticket, just so we have an idea of the crowd and everything that we're dealing with. VIP tickets are available on there, and that includes free food, free drinks, VIP access, VIP viewing area, entry to the Friday night pre-party, all that kind of stuff. And then there's a Facebook event page. Obviously, all the social media for Kanine Social over the next month and a half will be kind of dedicated towards that. So yeah, there's just a lot of different, things and ways for people to kind of see it. Like I said, we'll have flyers, we'll have posters. For people that aren't on social media, they'll see it at their local bar or restaurant that they go into. They'll probably see flyers for it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, man. Well, congratulations, guys. I'm definitely gonna make my best effort to be there as well.
Yeah, for sure.
It sounds like an awesome event. It was great last year, very smoothly run, and we really enjoyed playing, so I'm excited to see how it goes this year. And thanks again for sponsoring the podcast.
Yep.
And we'll see you guys on the 15th.
Awesome.
Make sure you guys support Wolfstock, Kanine Social. Follow them on the socials. Check out their website. Buy the tickets there. Just come and hang out here on a weekend or a weekday, whatever. Get hammered with your dogs. All right, guys. We'll see you later. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Welcome to the podcast, Alex. How you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Pretty good. It's good to have you here.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, it's kind of last minute. We were talking about getting you on next season, but then we had wildly 2 cancellations today, which is crazy because one doesn't usually happen, and then we have 2 podcasts in one day and they both get canceled. So
Yeah.
appreciate you coming in last minute and doing this.
No worries, man. Appreciate y'all having me.
Yeah, man. What's been going on?
Busy, dude.
Yeah.
Staying busy. Between the teaching and the gigs and everything that's involved with being a musician these days.
Yeah. What are you excited about right now that you're working on?
So me and Chris both, we have started a new project. It started out as a jazz project, almost like a vocal jazz project, and now it's kind of already within a month morphed into more of a fusion, more proggy type project.
Okay.
We've teamed up. We've kind of like assembled an A team of just insanely talented musicians, and it's me, Chris. We got Justin playing upright bass, and then a kid at UNF named Evan, who is like a virtuoso in my opinion, and then we have Jeremy, who's playing sax.
Oh, Jeremy Prince.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. We haven't. I don't know when this is coming out, but we haven't really formally announced the project yet. But we're going with the name Timewise.
I like it.
And and it's kind of gonna be my baby, which is new and exciting because as a drummer, it's never really, you're always fitting in, subbing in with other projects. So it's
Right.
kind of cool that I can take all my experiences from my already young career and put them into a project and see what comes out of it. But yeah, it's been really fun.
So, yeah, Chris showed me some of the voice memo stuff that you guys have just been kind of like practicing and writing. It sounds dope as fuck, man.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah. So I want to talk about that a little bit because this is kind of your first time stepping in. Would you call it like a leadership position? Like it's kind of your thing?
I would say it is my thing, but also it's an everyone thing. Like in terms of, because right now we're still in the writing process. So in terms of the writing and stuff like that, and we're such a young band that it's fun because it's the creative aspect of it. I don't want to just approach it with like, hey, this is how we're going to do it. This is what I have. You know, I'll throw an idea out and then like, I just feel like there's just so much talent in the room when we're writing and recording and that I can just kind of throw an idea out and then just have them feed off of it. So it's a lot of really what jazz is just improv.
Right.
So in terms of the writing process, a lot of the songs that we're actually writing are coming from a recording session we did. It was about 20, 30-minute recording session. We didn't write anything out. We'd only played together 2 or 3 times. We barely even knew each other. And we just recorded like 20, 30 minutes of us just strict improv. And that was about a month ago. And now we're just writing songs based off that little session. So in terms of being a liaison, I would say yes. But for right now, we're just still in that writing beginning process. I would say I'm not a liaison. I'm kind of just spitting out ideas, and then I just love hearing the feedback.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, I think that like it's important. Welcome, Melody. I think it's important when bands get together. There's usually some kind of a hierarchy as far as like, you know, what decisions are getting made. But to me, where the diplomacy really lies is in the creative process.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if you're playing with people in the band, then you have to trust them on some level as a musician, a player, and an artist.
Yep.
So like if that's the case, then you want to open up the creative outlet for them as well. She's gonna get in your face. And I was Mel, get out of his face.
Yes. So based off what you just said, like in terms of like, because like there's 2 sides I think with like music. So you have the pure musical aspect of the writing and the musicality of everything, and then the other side, which is almost just as important, especially nowadays, is the marketing, the business side, all that other stuff that comes along with not how good are you on your instrument. So in terms of the more business side, I would say I'm the liaison on that end. But a lot of that stuff, I'm also going straight to Chris too. Like the other day, we were trying to build a website, and I bought the domain, get that going, and I'm trying to. I think it was like Squarespace. I was trying to mess around with it. And I immediately called Chris 30 minutes later. I was like, dude, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like
he'd gotten one picture onto the website.
I got the logo and then the picture, and I was like, all right, Chris.
Yeah.
It's like, what can we do from here?
That's a good call. You know, be like knowing what you're good at and knowing what you're not good at, and then surrounding yourself with people that can kind of pick up, you know, where your weaknesses are, and then also being able to being okay with delegating and knowing that it's okay to outsource some of the work to other people. So that's already a good call off the bat, I feel like, you know.
Yeah.
So this kind of being your first time in this position, what are some things that you want to bring to the table on the back end of it that you haven't seen or that you do differently than previous projects you've been in?
So with this project, I will say we're very, very blessed and very, very fortunate. We have like, I don't know the technical term you would call it. We have a donor who's kind of sponsoring the project, which obviously that aspect within itself is completely new to me. So in terms of everything that we're doing, you know, we're being compensated for it, which I feel like it's not, but it should be industry standard. When you're driving 30 minutes to rehearsal and you're rehearsing for 3 to 4 hours, I feel like, you know, as a musician, you should be getting compensated for that in some way.
Yeah.
Like even we had a Kalani and the Vibe rehearsal, like we got compensated with food. And for me, that's perfect.
Yep.
That's great. So with this project, we have a donor, so we're getting compensated very well with it. So in terms of that, it's kind of new for the entire everyone that's in the band. We're a quintet. We got 5 people, so it's kind of new for everyone because we're basically operating in a land that not a lot of musicians get to operate with. In terms of we don't have many financial limitations. Essentially, like, you know, in terms of other projects I've been in, it's like, well, we're going to have to insource a lot of what gets done on the business side. Where now with the finances that we have backing us, we can outsource it,
Right.
which is insane, and it's truly a blessing. So a lot of it, like trying to answer that question, like a lot of it is like unknown because I've never been in a project, and I've also never worked with anyone that's in a project that has a backing like that. So what does it look like, you know, being able to just basically, you know, hey, we need this done. Okay, well, we don't need to insource that. Okay, cool, we can outsource it. Like it's new for everybody.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it truly is an absolute blessing. And that's just the business side of it. So the music aspect is also another blessing. Like I'm playing with insanely talented people, and it's just awesome. Like, I don't know, like with jazz, it's jazz, fusion, prog. That's all the kind of stuff that I'm into. Drumming and elsewhere, that's what I listen to. But it's really just, in my opinion, it's just a conversation. And when I get to like rehearse with these guys, and like I said earlier, like I kind of just throw out like a little idea, and hearing their take on it, and hearing this person's take on it, and oh, he wants to do it that way, and then he wants to eventually get to this. Like it's just cool being a liaison, but like hearing the creative side of everyone else that's in the project. It's very, very cool.
Right. Well, it's what makes it fun. It's a collaborative thing, and then especially when you get along with the people that you're playing with.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And then
that helps too.
Yeah, and then the next step of getting along is like trusting them as musicians to have like a good instinct as to what to do, right? And when those things fall into place, that's like an almost that's like a unicorn type situation.
Absolutely.
You know, it's usually like somebody, you know, there's dynamics that don't work out. People argue, or like, you know, maybe you all get along, but maybe you don't trust somebody or their instinct musically. So it's like there's a limitation there.
Yep.
Or you know, the financial thing as well. So it's like having people that you trust, that you like, and the financial backing to kind of do whatever you need to do to make the thing happen.
Yeah.
That's such a rare, especially when you're not in a city like LA or New York or Nashville where you have labels doing that, you know?
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
And I was going to say another thing is like me and the donor for the project, he's a business guy. He's had multiple successful businesses. So he's very in touch with the business side of things. So me and him have plans to go up to Nashville and meet with a top entertainment lawyer up there and work out a lot of the contracts and stuff like that. Because at the end of the day, do we all trust each other? Are we all, I mean, me and Chris are essentially best friends at this point. We hang out every day.
Every single day.
Every single day.
God bless you.
And yeah. And with the same with the other guys, Jeremy and all the other guys. So it's like, in terms of like the business side, again, it's like right now we're all cool with each other. We all have a great dynamic. We're all very tight. But, you know, you never know what's going to happen down the road when you start playing bigger shows and, you know, your Venmo goes from $100 to $1,000. Well, then your true personality starts coming out, right? Especially when you got a bunch of young cats that are 24, 23, 22. 2 of the kids in the band are still in college at UNF in the jazz program.
And then you got Chris.
And then you got Chris.
Old man Chris.
Which you got
over
to
here.
always watch out for.
Yeah.
So like with going to Nashville and meeting, you know, this lawyer guy, that'll be A, connections, and B, we can work out contracts where it's like, hey, this is what we're expecting to get if we do this kind of thing. This is, you know, we can kind of, it's almost like a security blanket.
Yeah, totally.
So like in the beginning, it seems silly because it's like, dude, we're all best friends. We're all hanging out. We're all making great music. Well, it's like, okay, well, a year or 2 from now when money's, you know, going this way and, you know, you may have other people hitting you up for gigs and you're getting more exposure as an artist. And with us being young, like these kids don't, you know, gig out like kind of like we do. So you just never know. But the sense of having a security blanket and working with our donor to kind of secure that like back end of the business side is pretty cool.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing to dig into because the idea of being friends and having a good time and just, you know, innately trusting the people, it's like that's one thing. But the thing is that there are so many scenarios that start to unfold as the thing gets moving, and to have clear established lines as to what the boundaries are and what the expectation is is super important, because that's a good way for your friendship to not be anymore, right?
Yeah.
Because if the lines aren't clearly drawn out, then there's a lot of things up for interpretation down the line, and that's good for nobody because everyone's got their perspective on what it should be. And then when there's a disagreement there, it becomes a real problem because we're talking about creative and intellectual property.
Yeah.
And lines are blurry at best. People take it very seriously.
Especially in music, dude.
Yeah.
It goes very quickly to being something very personal.
Exactly. It's literally like when you're writing with people, like you're giving them a piece of who you are.
Yep.
So the second that they feel like they're being undermined, it becomes like a deeply personal attack for people. So it's great that you're meeting with somebody now to figure that kind of stuff out, because that is, I mean, super important.
Absolutely.
Super important. Are you guys going to be like trying to start an LLC and figure out, whose name is on what and all that stuff?
Oh yeah. So that's all stuff that we're going to work out in contracts. And that's another part of it is like with for me, like I'm not an LLC, but like I'm my own business. So like for me, like even driving here to do the podcast, that's a tax write-off. That's a business thing. So like with a lot of younger kids, I feel like that are coming up in the scene, I don't know. It just depends on how you look at it. Like
you gotta be careful with that tax write-off stuff though, because if you're not, there's certain things you want to have in place before you start writing off gas and stuff like that for anything. Are you a sole proprietor?
Alex Hamby Drums is my
because I've worked with accountants that tell me it's like I have an LLC and all that as well. And,
sure.
And they tell me that just because you're driving from your house to a gig or something doesn't mean that you can write the gas off. Now, if you stop at a warehouse first to pick your shit up, then you drive to the gig, you can write off that gas or that mileage or whatever. But just from your house to that's just commute. Everybody has to commute to work.
To it.
Now I'm speaking with a very vague understanding. This is just what an accountant told me. But like commuting is like a part of the thing. Like you don't get credit for that.
'Cause I've been told the opposite.
Yeah, I know, it's so weird, right? Because you hear musicians say things and you hear accountants say things, and then you're like, well, maybe it's not legal, but how much are you making? Okay, yeah, they're not paying attention. We can do this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I if I'm driving to a student's house, if I'm driving to a gig, if I'm driving to a lesson, anything,
You write it all off.
I write it off.
Yeah.
And it's approved. I have an app that tracks it all. If I go out and have dinner with all y'all and I pay for it, that's also a write off.
Yeah, that's another tricky one too.
As long as you're keeping your receipts in case you get, audited.
Yeah.
Which I got track of all of it. But that's kind of what I wanted to talk about is like a lot of these younger cats, they have no idea like the whole like that aspect, because they're still in the mentality of like, oh, well, I'm still in college, or oh, I'm kind of just doing this for fun. I'm hanging out with my buddies. I'm doing this, that, and the other. But something I've become very keen to is the whole business aspect of it. Because it is. So I'm not sure about the whole tax write-off thing 100%. I'm just doing what my accountant tells me to do.
I know what, man. I have a sneaky suspicion that nobody knows what they're talking about. Even accountants. It's like...
Even the government.
Yeah, exactly.
They tell you, like, estimate how much you made this year and then send us that. And then they tell you it's wrong. It's like, well, you don't even know how much I made this year unless I report it.
It's so weird, man. I don't know. I try... I mean, I'm on top of it as much as I can be, but it's a lot to. That's the hardest part for me, is keeping track. Not just keeping track, that's easy. It's just like knowing what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. That's where it gets tricky.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's like, aside from the tax stuff, that stuff is just that's complicated and whatever. But there is just the overall business side of it. Like, you have to think about, what you want to do with music, and if you want to write and create, then what avenue are you trying to go down with that? And then figure out how it's done the right way, because this idea of just like pissing into the wind is not going to get you anywhere. It's a quick way to fail.
Yes. And how many bands do you know that are doing that exact thing? Well,
in cities, and basically in most cities outside of the major industry cities, that's how things operate, because there's no infrastructure. Right? There's no labels, like real labels on the ground.
Yeah.
There's no agencies, management companies, publicists, marketing people. If there are that, it's not for the music industry. It's for something else,
Yeah.
So the opportunities aren't as, like, people, I feel like, are not as aware of those opportunities, so they don't operate that way, right?
Yeah.
So,
and I think that mentality just comes to like, maybe it's not for you, but like my mentality is like, this is my livelihood. This is my business. This is what I will do until my heart literally stops beating. I will do this till I die, whether I'm making $10 or $1 million. I don't care. I'm doing this. And Chris is in the same boat with me. Like, we've talked about this with the many projects that we're in. Like, it doesn't matter. We're going to do this, whether it works out with this project or not, whether we're making money with this project or not, whether we end up in another city, it doesn't matter. We're going to do this until we die. So it just comes down to that mentality. I just see a lot of young cats, because like I'm only 24. So when I say young cats, I'm also talking about myself.
You're very young.
But I see a lot of bands that are, have a lot of potential, but they kind of have that almost like garage band mentality of like, oh, we're going to go play at Lynch's and we get drinks and we're in girls and this, that, and the other. And like, yeah, that's cool. But like, I'm not at that mentality anymore. I'm like, this is my business and this is how I run it, So
Totally.
more professional kind of mindset behind it.
Totally. And you're taking the right steps, it sounds like, talking to the right people and really trying to figure it out. It's very important. It's going to set you ahead in a lot of ways, even when the time does come at some point where you start working, if you start working with, labels and stuff like that, or marketing people, whatever, at some point you have to, hire those people to help you with things. And you having a better understanding of how all that works makes you a lot more protected down the line, because then like, well, this isn't right. What's happening here, right?
Yeah.
So
exactly. Also, I wanted to get your take on like, what are your thoughts in terms of so obviously we're operating in Jacksonville. So what are your thoughts on the oversaturation of musicians in Jacksonville? And what I mean by that is, so like, just take this scenario, for example. So you're playing at a place and they're offering you X amount of dollars. And you say, hey man, I need this. They say, we can't do that. No problem. So you're off that bill. And they hire someone else, Joe Blow, that's going to do it for $50. So that's what I mean in terms of the oversaturation, because I play with a lot of those people on both aspects. The people that are asking for more money because that's what they're worth. They put in the time. This is their career. This is their livelihood. I play with those people. Then I play with the people that kind of just do it for fun. I'm older. I'm just kind of playing cover music. Oh, I get to drink for free. That's a bonus. So I'll do that gig for $50. So what's your opinion on like in terms of the Jacksonville market? Maybe St. Augustine too, because that's literally really oversaturated. What is your opinion on like the oversaturation?
I don't think it's a problem of oversaturation. I think it's a problem of the opportunities that exist in these places, right? So if you think about the kind of gigs that we're playing a lot of the times, which are bar gigs, right?
Sure.
And you're getting paid guaranteed rates, whatever that is what it is. And the thing is that the stakes are very, very low. So you don't need to be that good to do them. So what ends up happening is that if you're a great musician or a great artist and you say, I don't want to work for that price, there's no leverage that you have because the stakes are so low for the kind of gigs that you're playing. So somebody else, a talent buyer or a bar manager or whoever it might be, will find the kid out of college or whatever that will work for half the price and maybe bring their family, their friends, and because they don't really gig that much yet, and like the bar makes money. It's all this stuff, and the music is half-assed, but it doesn't matter. The bar sees their bottom line being met. The talent buyer is talking to the manager who's stoked. And the talent buyer's like, well, we take a bigger cut. Manager's happy, and dude who's playing is happy because they're getting anything for playing.
Yeah.
Right?
But how unfortunate is that?
It's unfortunate, man. It is. But, again, it's a problem with not having infrastructure that incentivizes creativity, right? When you have, we can talk about labels and all the bullshit that they do or whatever, but there's a value in having investors in artists, because when people know that there's an infrastructure on the ground where you're at that will invest in what they do, it makes them pursue that route. But when people live in a place where there is none of that infrastructure, it's all do it yourself from the get-go. You're fighting this upward battle that's almost impossible to get even like a quarter of the way up, because it's so expensive to do the thing, to develop an artist and a brand. It's so expensive. So what ends up happening is that people just do the closest thing to that, which is play bar gigs. Yeah. And the stakes are just so low, it doesn't command a high value. It just doesn't,
Yeah. And that's something I've had to learn the hard way, is like, and we were talking about this before, but like just some of those gigs where you just know you're a fly on the wall.
Yeah.
Right? Even when we were talking about playing like the Jazz game and stuff like that, like cool gig, great opportunity, tell your parents about it, cool. But like even still, you're playing for 2 hours and nobody cares, you know? And we could name bars for the next hour. That's the same thing. But it's just, because like I said, I'm only 24. So I got my upbringing, as most of us did, with playing those bar scenes, playing the cover music. And I found out really quickly, like promoters, managers, companies don't care how good of a musician you are.
Right.
They truly, and that hurt. That was a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah. It's,
Oh, you practice this much and you have this many students and this is like this is your true passion. Okay, well, we don't care. We're going to hire this guy that plays 4 chords and can play 10 songs
right.
because he's going to do it $50.
Totally.
Which is insane. That was a hard pill to swallow for me.
I feel like if you're playing in bars for a living, it's under the guise of music industry, right? Because you're playing music. But to me, really, you're just operating in the bar industry. You're just a different arm of the restaurant or bar industry. Because no one's there to see you. They're they're there to maybe have drinks, eat some food, and if you're playing songs that they like, that they know, don't play an original song. God forbid. Play songs that they hear on the radio, and just do that. Well, okay, like would you consider a jukebox a part of the music industry? Because other than just like distribution that it offers, it's really not, right? It's just in a bar.
Yeah.
So you as a person, you're basically a bartender. The people tell you what they want to hear, they respond, and you supply that, right?
Yeah, you're 100% right. And like coming up in that scene, it was just that was a hard pill to swallow. It was. I mean, I realized it very quickly.
Yeah,
very quickly. Especially when you go around, you see the other bands that are playing this, that, and the other.
So what's the alternative for you? What do you want to do then? Do you feel like you can
get out of Jacksonville?
Well, I mean that's a valid point. But then we have examples of people that kind of have built careers here. For like JJ Gray is somebody. I would use. I don't like using Derek Trucks as an example because of his lineage, and then also because like he didn't get discovered playing the Jacksonville bars. Let's be honest, dude was touring around the world at 12 years old. So
that's insane.
Yeah, so I don't give him like. I mean, I'm so stoked that he's from here and that he gives this place. He represents this place, but I can't give Jacksonville credit for him, right?
Sure.
But JJ Gray, we can talk about that a little bit, but like there could be something to be said about building a brand from a city like this, just being based out of here, but like going out touring and going other places and building it that way, right? But then there is something to be said about being on the ground in LA, New York, or Nashville, where the industry is really at.
Yeah.
Right? So what do you think?
So in terms of my career and the bands that I operate and work with, I see everything as like a stepping stone. So like the bar scene is just a stepping stone to the next thing. Mm-hmm. So like my mentality as, I'm like 21, 22 years old getting to play a box, a cajon at a gig. Like I'm just stoked to be able to like do that. And then like I said, like I see everything as a stepping stone. So from there where you're going at, okay, now I'm behind a drum set. Okay, now I'm playing at, some of the lesser known bars, maybe for not as much. And then I'm playing at the more known bars for a little bit more much. And then the next, it's like, it's all a stepping stone. So for me, I think, I'm not going to diss Jacksonville. I'm not going to diss the scene here. I love Jacksonville. I was born and raised here. I feel like every kid, when they're in like high school or in college, should work at retail, right? Just to learn how to communicate with people, get off their phone and deal with customer service. Mm-hmm. I feel like as a musician, every musician should have to put in the trench gigs at doing the bar work.
100%. And we can even make a closer analogy to that, which is just working service industry in general, because you're literally in a bar or a restaurant.
We basically are in the service industry.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's what the job is. We are not operating as playing in bars. We're not operating within the music industry. Like the money that we're making is based off of bar sales or restaurant sales, whatever it is, whatever revenue we're generating for the place that we're at is a bar or a restaurant. It in no way circulates back into the music industry unless whatever ASCAP and BMI have their fees that they charge the bars or whatever. But I've always said that like it's super important. Like you can't discount the bar gigs. Yeah,
it molds you.
You can't discount them because like, first off, you get your chops, you learn how to deal with shitty people, and you get humbled every day,
every single gig.
And it's important as a musician because like you can be just a little bit good and get your ass kissed because it's literally like 90% of the people in the world can't do what we do, right? Even at a low level. So to be out there at bars giving it your all, especially as a great musician, and having nobody acknowledge you is important.
And honestly, I'd rather put that grind in on the lowest of low doing those gigs than like being 24 and been playing at the top places, because that's when you see a lot of flaws start coming in. If you immediately jump from nothing to a whole lot of something, you're going to see a lot of things go sideways. Look at every pop artist. Look at every,
Well, it's hard, man. I mean, you're skipping a lot of steps, right? And like
a lot of the humility that comes along with those stepping stones I was talking about, you're just skipping that whole process.
And just like what it means to be on a gig, like being prepared for a gig, like practicing, learning tunes ahead of time, having your gear, making sure it's all working.
Yeah, not having a sound guy or drum tech to make. That's you. You're doing that.
Yeah, it's all of that. And then so when you start to work your way up to those next levels, you're incrementally learning more and more and more, because every level up there's another element being added to the equation. So,
but I'd rather come from that point.
You should. Everyone should. I feel like everyone should.
I'd rather that. I'm not complaining, whether it sounds like it or not. I'm not complaining at all. I'm very blessed and happy to be doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that I'm hitting that stepping stone and then climbing up to the next one.
Yeah, it's a natural inclination to want to move on from the current position, right? And to be curious about what the next steps look like. And it's also natural to have your frustrations about your experiences in the current situation, right? So when we're talking about the things we're talking about, it's in no way throwing shade at what's happening here in Jacksonville, musicians,
not at all,
or whatever your priorities are as an artist. Like if you like doing the bar thing, that's totally cool.
And
too.
I play with people. 50% of the people I play with are totally cool with literally dying in this city and playing bar gigs.
Yeah, that's
Is that my mentality? Heck no.
Right.
But some of the people I play with, they're cool with just playing at the beach, and like that's you have to work with those people for this part of your career. But then I don't know. My biggest thing that I think kills musicians is complacency.
Yeah.
I mean, I have over 50 plus students right now, and it's probably the number one thing I try to preach to them, which is kind of hard because obviously I have just a burning desire for drums and music as a whole. And some of my students are just like 6 years old, and mommy's forced them to take drum lessons.
Yep.
And I'm trying to teach them complacency and crazy rudiments and odd time signatures, polyrhythms, nested tuplets, all this craziness.
Yeah, maybe to come out the gate with that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
right?
It's hard because, I don't know. I have a passion. Like I said, I'll do this till I die, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a gift to do this, and I'm wanting to do this my whole life. So it's hard with some of my students talking about that kind of stuff. But I truly do feel that like business aspect, musicality aspect, the biggest killer, and this just goes for like pretty much anybody in any business industry, the biggest killer is going to be complacency.
Yeah, any career that you do, if you want to excel at it, you have to make the effort to set yourself apart from the herd.
Yeah.
And but again, it can be hard. It's Jacksonville's done so much for me.
Same.
As a musician, I moved here from South Florida, and because it was
where in South Florida?
Miami, Fort Lauderdale area.
Okay.
Is a suburb in between both. Pembroke Pines is what it's called.
Okay.
Kind of navigating between Miami and Fort Lauderdale. Really, Miami when I was first getting started. It was a lot, and I didn't really know where I fit in. I was like not very good, and then
How old are you at this time?
I was like 20, 21 when
Okay.
I first started. I got started a little late as far as like professionally playing.
Sure.
And then when I was like, I started joining some bands at around 23 is when I joined my first full-time working band. And then 24, I went from playing a couple bars to getting picked up to go on tour around the country and through Canada and stuff. So I was a year into playing like really professionally, and I got picked up for a tour, and I was not ready for that, like just as a player.
Sure.
Right. But I shedded a lot, and I did the work. And then when I was 25, Chelsea and I moved to Jacksonville, and this city, it welcomed me to the jams. It was instantly like I could work out like my stuff and practice at the jams and like learn tunes and make friends. Everyone was very welcoming, and then it was like I could gig full time almost immediately. Like within like I wasn't even here a year before I was gigging full time, like with no day job.
And how old are you at that point?
I was 26 by that time.
And you would say that you're doing music full time
At that time,
That's your only income is music.
That's it. Yeah, and I haven't done anything else since 26. I'm 33 now.
That's awesome, dude.
So that being said, at some point, especially as a writer and somebody who thinks on a bigger scale than you're just playing full time around town, you want more. So you have to start to consider going to other places where the opportunities are, because like if they're not where you're at, like yes, social media, the internet, like that, this all helps right? But
Yeah.
but you still can't beat being on the ground. It's why actors who can just send in tapes or send in files to casting agents or whatever. It's why they still move to LA.
Sure.
Because it still doesn't beat being on the ground.
Yeah.
At some point, I think that if you want more, you have to go there. But Jacksonville has helped me become the musician that I am. It's given me my voice.
Yeah.
I discovered my voice here, and it's because of this scene, and I love Jacksonville for that.
Did you ever get into teaching or anything?
I've done it a little bit, man, but the point that you were making about basically babysitting 6-year-olds, like I don't have like the patience for it, and it's not even like you can't like be mad at a 6-year-old for it. It's just I take it very seriously, and I don't want to have to like sit there and reteach the same thing over and over and over again. And I don't want to get frustrated with the kids. I don't want to get frustrated with the parents, so I just don't do it.
Yeah, it's hard because like I don't even know what the percentage would be, but I would say 60% of my students, it's one of those things where it's very clearly forced.
Right.
But then the 30-40% that it's not, it makes up
It's all
for
worth it. Yeah.
It makes up for it. And that's coming from somebody that I feel like I have a heart for teaching. I love teaching.
Yeah.
And that's honestly, it's nothing against you, but like that's not something that's for everybody.
No, totally.
I know
man.
a lot of insanely talented musicians. They have no business teaching.
Yeah.
No business teaching.
It's one of those things where it's like I like teaching too, but my disposition is to, I want to know that whatever I'm instilling in somebody is getting heard and
Absolutely.
Because like I've worked hard for the information that I know. And for the ability that I have on the guitar, which I'm a mediocre guitar player, but I know more than most people who don't play the instrument.
Yeah.
So it's like I want to, and I like talking about business and like all the like I like instilling that into people. If there's anything that I can like help people with, I love doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That being said, it's hard with kids. It's hard for me with kids. Like
It is. I was gonna say whenever I had my first lesson with a student. Honestly, it's more or less about the parents than the kids.
Yeah,
when you're talking about
that's the bigger thing
kids.
for me. Yeah.
But something I try to make a point of, because I'm teaching at 3 different schools in Jacksonville, and I also do private lessons. And the private lessons is really where I find like that's where I excel because those are the kids that really want it,
Right.
And the parents that really want it, and the parents that put in the time with their kids. But the point I was trying to make is like, off the get-go, I make sure the parents understand that whether we're doing a 30-minute lesson or an hour lesson or what have you, bi-weekly, once a week, the lesson is a lesson. The practice, it happens throughout the week. So when you come to the lesson, you have questions prepared. This isn't like, the lesson isn't practice.
Right.
If the last time, and I've lost a lot of students because of this, and I'm honestly thankful. Like I made it very clear that like say I give you an assignment today and the only time you practice it is the next time you come in. You didn't put any time with it. You didn't even look at it. You haven't opened your book. You haven't touched your drumsticks. Mm-hmm. Those are the students I don't care about, and those are the students that I lose, and those are the students, it's fine. Like, they go to the wayside. But the students that stick around, and even if it is just once or twice, maybe 3 times a week for 15, 20 minutes, the real reason I love teaching is because when you can get a student who maybe isn't hooked on music, maybe isn't hooked on drums or piano. I also teach piano. But if you can hook them on the idea that if you just spend 15 to 20 minutes a day with this, and then they have the next lesson, and then you can instill in them, and like, this is how much you've grown. It's like with anything. Like I tell my students all the time with sports. So a lot of my kids are obviously involved with sports. If you're playing football, and the only time you touch a football is on a Tuesday practice, are you gonna get very good? No. But if you're putting in gym time, if you're throwing, if you're playing with your friends, if you're hitting a couple practices a week, the time in a week, in 7 days that you're exponentially getting better at what you do, it's insane. And when you get a student to realize that is kind of how I found the key to getting them to continue that cycle of practicing and putting in just a little bit of effort.
So I'm curious, what 2-part question.
Okay.
Have you utilized video for practicing to show so students can see their progress? And number 2, if not, what techniques do you use to get them to realize that?
Okay, so with when you take anything like learning, whether it's school or music, there's a couple different ways you can approach it. And something I try to find out very quickly with my students is, are they a visual learner or an auditory learner? And sometimes, the parents, I'll ask their parents just off the get-go, and their parents will say, okay, well, in school setting, they're a visual learner. Well, music, that always doesn't transcend over. So something I try to do very quickly is find out, do I need to put notation in front of the student, or do I need to have, be playing this stuff and sending videos and stuff like that? Another thing that I always tell parents and students that I'm really, really, really big on, because I'm a part of both, is there's two things with music. So there's the theory side with the notation, reading music and all that. That's 50% of it. The other 50% of it, which we're all more familiar with, is the ear training.
Mm-hmm.
We're not looking at chord sheets. We're not looking at written out solos.
Well, some of us aren't.
Well, Chrissy chord sheets over there is. No problem. No,
chord.
that's Chrissy chord sheets.
I'll look at a chord sheet all day.
Hey, that's no problem. But you're also playing a million songs a week, so it's a little different scenario for that. So what I tell my parents and my students the first day is I teach both, right? Because I know a lot of teachers that are decent teachers. Some of them are great teachers, but they'll only teach you one. They're only going to focus on ear training and picking up stuff, which is great. But the other side of it, they go hand in hand. So if you can get both of them down and have a teacher that teaches you both, the music theory, the notation, the rhythmic ideas that are going on a paper, and then you have the ear training, those will always coincide. And there's legendary players that literally, if you throw them a chord sheet, they have no idea how to operate with that.
Oh, totally, yeah.
But they have the best ear in the world.
Yep.
But it's like when you're dealing with a kid and a student, it's like, I want to teach you both.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of that, I try to learn very quickly if they're a visual learner or if they're an auditory learner. But if they are an auditory learner, I'm going to preach both. So I'm going to send them home with the sheet music. And I always tell my parents, like, please, 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 if your child has questions on the home, I don't like calling it homework, because for me, it's just fun. It's practice.
Right.
Practice isn't homework. It's fun.
Yeah.
But if they ever have questions, I sent a video out to a student I have. I'm teaching at a school in Jax Beach, and now she's going to start doing private lessons with me. But yeah,
we edit that part out.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I don't have a non-compete with them. I don't have a non-compete with anybody.
Word. Hell yeah. Smart man.
Yeah, I don't do non-competes. I mean, if a student asks me, hey, like this time for our schedule isn't working out, is there anything other times you have? No, but I also teach private lessons. Okay, that's a private student. That's why honestly I pick up a lot of my private students, but no problem.
Yeah.
Hey, you know. That's why you work at the school, so you can pick up your private students and actually make money. But you didn't hear that from me.
Yeah, well, they did though, right?
But they did. So. That's a little secret if you get into teaching. Work at the schools, and then nonchalantly mention that you do private lessons and you'll drive to their house.
And that's our Instagram clip for the week. What school do you work at? Make sure we tag them.
And I'm not telling you any of the schools I work at. No problem.
I'll send you a list.
No, but yeah, I mean, in terms of a business aspect, you want to make money teaching, do private lessons, dude. You drive to the student's house, tell the parents that they don't have to drive their student, they can just stay at their house. I love teaching, and like it is a business and it is a lot of fun for me, but in terms of the business aspect, you're going to make money, most of your money doing private lessons.
I did private lessons when I lived in South Florida. There's a couple students that I had. It was just like, but like the kid
those are the kids that normally they enjoy it and want to learn.
Yeah.
Normally.
The kids that I have, they like the idea of it.
Okay.
But they never practiced. And then they would give me they would send me like I want to learn this song, like a video game song or something. And it's like,
dude,
bro, this song is I'm gonna have a
that.
hard time learning this one.
I can't handle that stuff.
Like what? Like you don't even know like what a C note on the guitar is. Like how like you know what I mean? So
yeah, I do know what you mean, bro. That stuff is so annoying.
It's so annoying. But I want to go back to the auditory versus visual learners. And so when I first started playing guitar, it was all like by ear and then and whatever, and then
sure.
I started playing with like jazz guys and all the stuff that went to like UM and they kicked my ass, and so I started like buying books and learning about theory, and now I got a pretty good understanding. I can do like some notation and stuff.
Sure.
I feel like if you don't get both at the same time, the better option is to get your ears developed first, learn the theory later, if you're not getting it at the same time. Because what happens, I feel like, is that people get too wrapped up in the theory of it.
Okay.
And it's like, especially like on guitar, where I have like friends that will, multiple people that will map the fretboard out.
Sure.
And so here's all the different ways you can do this one thing. And it's like, But then when you're playing, all you're thinking about is that map, and you're not considering anything else. And that's the problem, is that like when we get into like things like blues and jazz,
It's a feel.
it's a feel, and there's things that are going to be happening that aren't necessarily going to be so cut and dry, right? So, with jazz, it's a lot of harmony that's implied, or that's just like, a lot of like shell voicings and stuff where we're using notes as passing tones to get to. So like, and
you're
then
talking about theory right now.
Yeah.
You're not talking about ear.
Right.
I mean, it's a little bit of both.
No,
but
that's what I'm talking about. It's a theory right now,
Okay.
right? So then with blues, there's a lot of bending stuff, and sometimes it's like in, sometimes it's out.
Yep.
There's
It's
phrasing issues.
microtonal. It kind of gets in there, but
Yep.
it sounds good.
It sounds
Yeah.
great. And there's phrasing stuff that happens. It's kind of hard to notate because it's like you don't really know exactly where it's at.
And that's when it becomes more of a feel thing.
Exactly. But then if you get too wrapped up in the theory side of it, you negate those things that make the genre so beautiful. And then we
Absolutely.
become very mechanical, and you're not displaying or speaking the language properly, or not properly, whatever, but like you're not doing it justice, I feel like.
I 100% agree. 100% agree. And that's so my point A would be like, once again, like it's a 50-50 thing. But I think the level that you're talking about with like all the stuff that you just mentioned is not stuff that a beginner player is going to pick up on. Typically.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. If you're learning both at the same time, that's ideal.
Yes.
But for those who are not, right, it's important to, I think, get your ear developed first, right?
Okay, I would agree with that.
You
Absolutely.
know, like don't worry so much about learning. Like let's say that you've been playing, 2 years, right? You know no theory. Your playing is kind of getting there, like whatever you're sounding.
Technique.
Yeah, your technique's getting there. You're sounding okay. Like you can hear a song and you're kind of getting what's happening, but not totally yet.
Sure.
And then somebody says, hey, you need to learn theory. That's going to help you. And then it's like, okay, cool, I'll do that. Well, what ends up happening is that you start this, because this is what happened to me.
Okay.
Is that you get too wrapped up in what you're supposed to do, quote unquote, and not what your natural inclination would be, because you stop trusting your ear because you just became aware of all the shit that you don't know about, right?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Because music to me is about instinct and intuition.
Absolutely.
So you have to trust that. And when you start thinking about all the things that you don't know, you stop trusting that because you believe that you don't know what you're doing anymore.
Sure.
Right.
Oh, man, to me, the theory, though, is what you can have in your back pocket and is allowing you to do more. So I don't see it as much of and I'm not saying that you're seeing it this way. I never see music theory as a hindrance in any way.
Right. Well, because
It's only going to help
did
you.
you learn both at the same time? You got lessons, you went to school
Yeah.
for music.
Yeah.
So like when you're consuming both of those things at the same time,
It has to be a 50-50 split. You can't have a teacher that's, just if you look at a kid, their attention span is literally 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're just trying to push theory and notation to them,
they're done.
hey, if you're trying to lose students, that's a great way to lose students.
Yeah.
Push theory, notation to them the whole time. Never talk about, the stuff they want to, the kid wants to learn AC/DC. Okay, well, I'm going to make you transcribe that. The kid was going to lose the lessons in a month.
Right.
But I think we're saying the same thing.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Because I think they're equally as important.
Yes.
Right. I think you need to know, you need
I
to
know
know
a lot
the
of
theory.
guitarists that just do tabs.
Yeah, that's insane to me. I can't. And I'm saying that as somebody who doesn't really read sheet music, right? Like,
True.
If you show me the sheet music, I can tap like what's happening. I can rhythmically
Sure.
clap it out, and then I can tell you what the notes are, right? But what I have a hard time with is putting them both together at the same time.
Interesting.
And so I just don't do it because I don't really need to do it most of the time.
Well, for the scene that we're in, when are we reading sheet
That's
music?
what I'm saying. So that's why
So we don't really use it.
That's why I don't use. That's why I don't really flex that. I just don't work that muscle out. Right.
We don't need to.
That being said, the theory stuff, that language I can speak, and that's an important one because with music, if you don't speak it, there's too much up for interpretation. And you saying, let's do like a bop kind of thing. It's like, well, what does that mean? Well, let's do like more up tempo, more like let's play it more upbeat. It's like, okay, well, if you don't know what you're talking about, if you don't know like the language, you probably mean let's play it faster, right? But I don't think of that. I'm thinking literally on the upbeat, right?
Sure.
If you come from that world of just theory, then you're literally thinking on the upbeat. So it's like, me coming from the world of not knowing theory at first and then now knowing theory, when somebody says, let's play it more upbeat, I know what they're talking about, like faster. But if you don't know the language, there's a communication.
There's a disconnect.
Yeah, and then it makes it hard to like do anything or get anything done. You know?
So my favorite thing that you've said so far is language. I love that term because I mean, even as I said earlier, like music is just a conversation. It's me saying my language, and then I'm listening to your language, and then we're having a conversation. Right. Specifically with the jazz stuff, but with anything. Any jam night you go to and you call it a tune, and people are going to play the tune, you're just speaking language. So that's something else that I try to like improve upon my students is like, this stuff is just here to help you. This is just, I'm building up your repertoire, your language. Like just compare it to like, I don't know, being in 5th and 6th grade and you have to write a paragraph essay, you know, and you're using too many thes and ands and this, that, and the other. Well, can we improve those adjectives or whatever you have with some bigger words, improve your vocabulary, improve your language to just make you a better player? And something that I actually just started doing last week, I had a guy I was playing with 2 or 3 weeks ago at a gig, and we were kind of chatting it up, having a few drinks at the bar before the gig, and he was asking me because he knew I was a big music theory nerd and I'm a huge transcription nerd and whatnot, and he was asking me like, not in the sense of like a get rich quick kind of theme of like how do I get really good at music. It was kind of more or less along those lines.
Yeah, no.
Like how do I really improve on my instrument in a short amount of time? Kind of like that.
Yeah.
Not exactly how he worded it, but something I'm preaching to the choir. I'm preaching to myself. So this is something I just started doing, is really getting into transcribing. And I've started doing it with my students too. And I've started really, like for this jazz project with Time Wise, I've really started to transcribe my parts because I've noticed when I transcribe, and all transcription is getting out what's in here onto a paper. That's all it is. Can I play it? Sure. No problem. I'm getting out on here onto paper. And just through the process of transcription and, okay, is this an 8th note, this is a 16th rest, this, that, and the other, that's going to get you a better player.
Totally.
But then in terms of once my favorite part is once I get it down on paper with drums, you know, we're working out, okay, is this the right foot, right hand, left hand, all the rudiments, all this, that, and the other. That's what we would call in the drum world sticking, right hand, left hand, what's hitting what at what time. Once I transcribe it, I really love the process of, once I get it down, switching it up, like and seeing where else I can go. So in my head, I can kind of quickly do that, but on paper, I can kind of long term, like write out a groove, write out the sticking, write out the counting. And this is not for like basic, like, we're obviously not going to try to transcribe something like that.
Right.
This is for your more, okay, I'm trying to write a groove in 5/8, and I'm trying to write some nested tuplets, and I'm trying to write in some 32nd or some 64th notes. So this is some more complicated stuff.
Right.
But I've noticed that transcribing it, and this is why I told that kid, I'm like, dude, you want to get, and I've learned this, I love, in my free time, I watch jazz documentaries. When I do have free time, I just love watching jazz documentaries and getting wisdom from legends. And they'll all tell you the same thing. Start transcribing. So yeah, I've really noticed that transcribing, working with my students and doing it for myself has, just in the last couple of weeks, and that's something I've always done, but now that I've really started taking it seriously, just in the last couple of weeks, I've noticed it's made me much better. Like it's cool, and for me it's fun. It's not like, oh, I have to go transcribe this and let me figure this out. Let me use MuseScore to make sure I'm doing it correctly.
Right.
No, it's more like, oh, I get to transcribe this. Let me see how I can add on to what I have in my head and what I'm writing.
Right. Yeah, totally, man. It's funny that you say that because I actually was doing that before you got here.
You were transcribing?
Yeah, because
My man. Let's go. My man.
Because like it's because like
transcriptions.
Yeah, right. We're real fun at parties, guys.
Oh, dude, jazz it up. Transcribe me out. Come on,
bro.
Transcribe me out.
Yeah.
Hey,
is that a new move you're working on?
Hey, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
You know,
it sounds like the worst fucking like tagline from a '90s sitcom. Transcribe me out, guys.
You gotta chill, bro. Y'all get me talking about transcription. I get a little excited, you know?
Oh shit!
All right, so let's hear this. You were transcribing before this.
Yeah. So
I want to hear about this. You got my
got his attention.
So there was before we started the podcast, I was telling you that I've been working with this engineer who worked with Side Hustle for the last couple records, and he lives in South Florida. So him and I can't like physically meet up and do work. So what I have to do is communicate my ideas to him, and then he has to try and execute, right? So
that's a cool dynamic, though.
It's cool because like we're on the phone.
Interesting dynamic.
Yeah, it's there's a curve there for sure happening because a shout to Jason Sudewi, by the way. He edits this podcast for YouTube and all that. Sorry, he's our boy. He'll be listening to this too because he's gonna be editing it. So it's an interesting learning curve because sometimes, especially if you don't speak the language of production, which is a different language to learn, it can be hard to get your ideas across. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, going through a song that we're working on right now, and I'm taking notes on it, like some ideas that I have, like for production stuff and sounds that I want to hear and whatever. And then I'm hearing like a melody over the song. Okay, let's try this melody, and I'm literally typing out in a document like, I want to hear this. I want to hear this D sharp. That's gonna be a quarter note, and I want to hear this phrase here with these notes, and that's gonna be there's gonna be a dotted quarter note rest here, and then this is gonna come in on the end of 3, and then we're gonna do and it's gonna be this pattern, and that's gonna be eighth notes, right? And I'm just like, bro, just write it out. You know what it is. Like, you just told him what it was.
Yeah.
Why don't you just write it down on staff paper? So
he'll understand that.
Yeah, because he like studied classical music.
Oh, dude.
So like he'll look at the music and I'm gonna assume that you're gonna know Jay because I don't know, he doesn't like play a lot anymore, but I would imagine that he still can like visually understand what's happening.
Sure.
So I just sat there and said, bro, just fucking write it down. So I got some staff paper out and I just like started notating it, and I was like, when I started doing it, I was like, this is help. Like, just I don't know how to describe how it's helping me, but I can tell you right now that there's something that just makes sense now.
Yes.
After doing this exercise, literally, I don't write sheet music. I don't read it.
Sure.
But like just doing this one exercise, I'm just like, that was amazing. Like,
yes.
You know what I mean? So I get what you're saying. It definitely helps for sure.
Chris, what's your take on that transcribing?
Man, it was one of the biggest things that kind of gave a jump for me when I was at UNF.
There you have it, folks.
I studied with James Hogan, and he like had a bunch of theory to give me, but then he would show me all these players, and I just had no idea what they were doing. And like my assignments would be like, all right, go play me his first take of the solo. Like go play his first chorus of it or something like that.
Okay, so this is another thing with transcription. Are we talking about learning something, or are we talking about notating something?
This was notating. This
Okay.
was like, it was like an exercise on like, and I had to play it too. It wasn't just like
so using ear training to transcribe.
using ear training to transcribe,
Dude,
Right.
then
that
put
would
it
make you
on the
so
instrument.
good.
And honestly, man, in terms of transcription, I was doing that for a long time. And then once I got out of school, I stopped like doing so much physically, like transcribing it. But something I picked up recently is I'm trying to like make music lessons of just like little songs that I like and promote them on like short form, social media clips, but selling or like transcribing stuff and essentially selling lessons of these things that I'm working on.
Dude.
So part of that was like writing a solo out, just like me playing it, composing it, and then turning back around and transcribing myself.
Yes.
And that was one of the wildest things that I've done in like recent memory is like all these licks that are kind of now all part of my bag, stuff I do on the regular is like, what is the actual written notation of what I do almost every night? And it kicked my ass for maybe like, I don't know, a solid 3 or 4 days of just like trying to notate something that I play 10 times a gig. That's just something I lean on as a crutch almost. It's like, damn, that's deeper. So like even taking the time to like go back on stuff you play and kind of understand your own vocabulary a little more is wild.
That's so true because you recognize the patterns, right? When you spell it out, it's like anything else. Like when you're reading, a book or something. Like when you get to the point of where you can read, when you're learning how to read when you're younger, you're like, almost one letter at a time. You're sounding it out, and then it becomes now I see the pattern of the letters and I can see the word, and then you start to get. I mean, I don't read like a whole lot anymore, so like, but let's say like for people that do read a lot, like you can kind of like get from point A to point B over here of a sentence just because you recognize the pattern of right, and it becomes the same thing when you're reading music. All of a sudden, you see the pattern of the measure, and then the entire line at some point, you're like, I know exactly what's going to happen because I recognize this pattern.
Yes. it's like I'm trying to like put into terms of like how I'm trying to like actually like it's hard to quantify how good it is for you as a musician. Like your vocabulary is getting better. B, like your way to communicate with other musicians, like how you were talking about, gets better on a gig, on a recording, this, that, and the other. Like there's just so many different ways that transcribing will make you a better musician, dude. It's honestly, it's kind of insane.
And even if you don't like the notation thing today, and it's funny that you brought that up because today was my first time doing it, and literally like
it makes you think, man.
Yeah. That's super important. Like even that was a light bulb that went off. But if you don't do that, at least take the time to like just audibly transcribe stuff. Listen to music and try to play what you're hearing, like note for note.
Yes.
It builds your chops up, number one. And number two, like chances are the ideas that you have in your head, like they've already been, especially when you're first starting out, they've already been done. So if you can just keep listening and play it, then within a couple of years, you'll be able to form your own voice with that vocabulary, you know?
Yeah. And I would say, like, for those who are listening who maybe aren't into transcription or haven't gotten onto that level, the second best way to basically kind of do the same thing is just to record yourself.
Yeah, totally.
Like a lot of my students were not at the point of transcription, right? These kids are not trying to transcribe what they're writing down. Okay, cool. Record it. Right? And then even for us, like with these fills and these licks and these grooves that we're playing that we have in our back pocket that we can pull at any time, like record it. And then the same thing with transcription. When I write it down in a transcription, I can see how I can add on and make it more hard, this, that, and the other. The same thing with recording. I can record it. I can hear how that actually sounds like, you know. This is actually something I preach on a lot with my students and also with the church I play at. I'm like, do y'all want to get good? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, we record all these services. We live stream them. Go back and listen to them. Listen to all these notes that you're flat on. Listen to the drums that we're doing this. Listen to this, that, and the other. Like, go back and listen to recordings of yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And then in terms of for drums, with my beginner students and even intermediate students, practice in front of a mirror. Like when I'm trying to preach technique and stuff like that, I don't know how it is in terms of like guitar and stuff like that, but I know drums. And I kind of pride myself on being a very specific on technique. And this is something I did when I was taking lessons in high school. I was taking lessons with John Farmer, which is really who I started taking. When I started taking lessons with John Farmer, he moved out to Colorado, but this is when I kind of went from, this is kind of fun to, okay, you have a gift and I need to like do something with this and I need to take this to the next level. But something he had me do is record yourself, go back and listen to that, play in front of a mirror, get your technique down.
Technique is another element of it that's important. And especially for people who don't go to, or who aren't taking lessons or aren't going to school, that's
YouTube University. It's free.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's overlooked a lot for people.
And I'm saying that as a teacher.
Yeah.
Who loses money when people want to opt out of doing private. Yeah. Private lessons are always going to be better. You're going to have a real time response.
It's always better to
YouTube
do lessons.
University. I do YouTube University.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Bro, that's like what, dude. I didn't take lessons when I was younger. So like the only way for me to like learn stuff was to listen to it, and YouTube started becoming a thing a little bit later. So, but like what that's helped me do is look at the technique that people are using, and it's like, you know, when I look at my favorite players.
Who are some of your favorite players?
Mark Lettieri, Larry Carlton, Corey Wong.
Oh yeah, dude.
Guys like that. All
Tom Mish. You like Tom Mish?
Tom Mish from.
You'd love Tom Mish.
You don't know who Tom Mish is?
I don't think so.
Oh, you'd like him.
Yeah.
He's very talented.
Yeah.
He's very talented.
Is he like his own artist, or does he play with somebody?
Yeah, he's a solo artist, but plays full band.
Yeah, dude, you'd like him.
I'll have to check him out.
Oh, I'll show you him. I'll show you some of him afterwards.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to see him.
Right there.
Yeah, totally. But I watch those guys, and like, there's a part of me that's like, yeah, you want to play what they're playing, but then you also want to know how they're playing it, because there's a feel and a way that they're speaking that is that you can't do if you don't understand their technique, right? So I start going back and I'm like, man, I've been doing this all wrong for so long. Look at the efficiency in the right hand, especially the right hand is so important, man. Left hand is very important too, but right hand for a guitar player is because it's also just so overlooked, right? Like everyone's we got to hit the right notes, and we can just do hammer-ons, pull-offs, and we overlook the right hand. But holding the pick properly and like knowing how to move your wrist and control.
Economy of motion.
Yeah, exactly. Economy of motion. Exactly that. And understanding how to be precise with your picking. That's what those guys are so fantastic at. And I've had to go back and rework my technique over the years of having bad technique, which is it's always a setback when you have to do that. So,
but you're always a student.
Always a student.
Always a student.
You're always a student.
Always. So it's not really. It is a setback, but it's not.
Right.
You're always learning. You're always a student.
Totally.
You never. I can't stand people. Oh, I'm good. I don't need lessons anymore.
People that
what?
People that tell me so. I'm just.
Who
bored.
are you?
When people say they're bored of their instrument, I'm just like,
I
mean, you're not looking hard enough then, or you just don't care anymore.
Go on YouTube and watch 10 minutes of content. That's what I do.
Yeah.
Bro, I can't stand that stuff, dude. And that comes back to I feel like that comes back to the same mentality of what I said earlier about the complacency.
Right.
Oh, I'm good. I know everything. Bro, who are you?
Right.
That's complacency, A, and B, you're not that good.
Right.
Maybe they are good, but dude, I mean, one of the schools I teach at, there's a, man, he must be 70 something years old, and he's a virtuoso piano player. And I tell a lot of my other students this. He's 70 years old. He's been playing the piano since he was like 10. This is the most insane player ever. And he practices 2 to 3 hours every day. Every single day. He's been playing for, I don't even know, do the math, 60 something years. And he's 60, 70 years. I don't know how old he is. And he's still practicing 2-3 hours a day.
That's awesome.
But one more thing I wanted to kind of segue in with the Tom Misch thing, and the teaching and kind of going along this line is another thing that I'm really big on. And this is actually, so like one of the schools I teach at, I try to write like a topic of the day like that I would like to discuss with some of my students that are kind of at that level where I see potential in. And the topic I had written out was, what was it? It was, what are you listening to when you're not behind your instrument that's making you a better player? So obviously when we sit behind our instrument, we grab our guitar, our drums, we have the stuff we like to play to, we'd have the stuff that we like to play to, and we're learning and doing this, that, and the other. But I think a huge part of practice is listening.
Yeah.
And in terms of just listening to like, what was I listening to when I came to this podcast? What was I listening to when I was on the way to go teach? Like for me, that's practice. Like, what are you listening to that's making you a better player? Whatever that means for you, and in terms of a beginner level or an extremely advanced level, like I'm really big on listening and listening to stuff that is going to challenge you and spark creativity when you're not, because most of us are going to do that behind our instrument. But when you're not behind your instrument, are you still doing that same thing?
Right. I think that a big thing. God damn it, Melody. I think that a big thing with that is having experience in the studio. Because when you're,
that's a whole nother world right there too.
It's vastly different than performance,
dude.
Live performance, and it's equally, if not more important to your ability as a player and as a listener. Because first off, like everything's under this auditory microscope.
Yeah,
you can really hear all the imperfections, and you know how to correct. You have to learn how to correct those so they don't exist in the ether forever.
Yes,
right. Secondly, it teaches you how to listen to music, because you have to.
Dude, that's huge.
Yeah, man. Like you have to pick apart whatever you're, especially in a band situation where we have, let's at a basic level, just very basic. You have drums, bass, guitar, maybe some keyboards, some vocals, maybe some harmonies, right? And you have to understand how to first tune out everything and focus on one thing.
Yep.
And then bring everything back in and listen to that one thing in the context of everything else.
Yes.
And then move on to the next instrument and do the same thing over and over and over again. And then listen to the song as a whole and not focus on one thing, but how does the whole
listening to other players.
Yeah. Yep. How does the whole thing sound together without just in context? Like, how does this sound as a song? Let's not focus on bass or piano. How does this sound as a song now?
Yes.
And then what that does is when you listen to everything else, now you're listening on that same level because you had the experience of picking every element of the song apart, right? So
yes.
What the studio experience helped me big time with that. Now when I listen to music, it's almost like sometimes daunting because my instinct is to just start picking it apart. And it's like, well, this isn't a fucking passive activity for me anymore. Now this is becoming like work, and I don't want to listen to music right now. So it's like, but
the art of listening is an art within itself.
Totally.
Like, that's going back to the teaching thing. Like, we can have lessons and we can learn during the lesson, but if you don't teach a student how to practice, then everything is worthless.
Totally.
Right? Because we're doing a 30-minute hour lesson a week. I don't want to keep harping on the teaching thing, but that's that's where I'm comfortable, and this is good for anybody that's trying to do music. Like, if the art of practicing, and then what we were just talking about, which is a separate but same thing, the art of listening, is so quintessential to getting better on your instrument. And another thing, along with the recording studio time and listening back to yourself and this, that, and the other, another great way to get really good at playing with other people or just on your specific instrument is, kind of sounds weird, but I don't know if y'all have ever heard this before, but learn another instrument.
Oh yeah, that's,
dude.
Yeah, for sure.
You want to get good at what you do, learn another instrument and figure out how everything communicates and is talking to each other together.
Exactly. It's super important, man. Dude. Super important. It's like anything else, it creates, like, the more experience that you have in life as a person, just outside of music, the more experiences that you have, the more just naturally empathetic that you become towards things, right?
All about perspective.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you can understand more, then you can communicate more eloquently and to a much broader audience of people.
Yeah.
Right. And it makes you much more comfortable in any scenario. Whether, again, this is outside music. It can be social. It can be business. Whatever it is.
Sure.
The principle is the same. And when I speak with people that, well, I just want to have fun. I just want to play. Okay. Well, what's less fun than being on stage and not knowing how to interact? Like, there's nothing less fun than being in even a writing session, a rehearsal. What's less fun than being around a bunch of people that you don't know how to interact with as a musician, right?
Bro.
Why not just do the work, and then that way you can have tons more fun in any scenario, right?
And that comes back to the mentality of and this is just that's what's so cool about music is you can apply a lot of pretty much everything that we've talked about today into not music, but just life,
anything,
or business, which is so cool. So Wynton Marsalis is a famous trumpet player. Mm-hmm. He is huge on this stuff. I just watched a huge documentary the other week where he was just applying music lessons, but to life lessons, which is essentially what we're talking about right now. And I think that's huge. To be able to apply these, especially for once again, the student thing, to be able to apply these music lessons to life lessons, it's super important, especially for young kids that are coming up in today's day and age.
Ultimately, at the end of the day, art imitates life.
Oh,
right?
Okay, yeah.
So it's just that. It's like everything has a place, everything exists within a certain frequency or within a certain boundary, and then understanding how those things work in relation to each other allows you to be able to think about things on a broader level.
If I do something, I want to do it to the best of my ability. Right. And I think, once again, that comes down to a mindset thing. Some people are okay just getting by. And is that my mentality? No. And does it kind of make me sick? With my mentality, because I'm not on that same wavelength. I don't operate that way.
Right.
If I'm going to do something, I just started going to the gym again. I'm going to operate. I want to send it. If you want to use the 2023 term, bro.
Yeah.
Send it. I want to send it. I want to go, over the edge with it. I'm not going to half-ass it, if you will. Let's just say that.
Totally.
So with music, and especially with music, because that's my passion. That's why I feel like I've been put here on earth, is to do music and give back and this, that, and the other. I will never half-ass music. I will never half-ass it.
Totally.
So it's hard because, once again, you play with people, they don't care. They're cool with playing the 4-chord songs, whatever, doing this, that, and the other, playing the same spots. But then you play with the people that don't do that, and then you have the mentality that I think we have, where it's we want to be great, At
everything. That's the thing, is there's a time and a place for everything. It's at the end of the day, it's just about understanding it's about understanding your options.
Yes.
Right, and then knowing that given the options within any given circumstance, you're going to understand how to operate within that circumstance. It's not anything to be said less about simple music or more about complex music. It's just as a player, understanding how to play, because we're working in service of the art. If the art calls for simplicity, then we play simple, and we know to do that.
Absolutely.
If it calls for complexity, we start to think a little bit more about what we're doing, and we start to operate like that. And then again, even from the from the perspective of complacency, everyone's not going to want to be more than that, and we need that too.
Sure.
Right? Because it helps keep people grounded.
Sure.
And we need some of that as well.
Sure.
However, if that's not your mindset, then don't do yourself a disservice by not feeding that impulse, right?
Yes.
Feed the impulse to be better, even if it seems hard, because the muse will stop speaking to you if you don't entertain it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting to me because, like, I work with both of those people. And like I said, for me, just in general in life, I don't want to half-ass anything. And then with music, I definitely don't want to half-ass that. I want to be the very best I can. And like I said to you earlier, like, once you're a student of music, you're always a student.
Right.
And then once it's your livelihood and your passion and who you identify yourself as, dude, like there's no, oh, I practiced 3 hours this week. No, it's like when I get time to practice, it's awesome. I love being able to practice. When I have free time to practice, I love it. So like another thing is like when I was more of a student than I am now. I'm still a student, but when I was more of a student in terms of like I'm taking lessons and having private lessons and taking, doing the camps and doing jazz band at the school and high school, that stuff. That mindset for me was still, okay, I have to practice 30 minutes a day. Mom wants me to practice 30 minutes a day in this, and then she wants me to do an hour of piano. I took piano too with my mom. She went to JU and double majored in piano. So that's where I got I have a very musical family on one side, and the other side, they just play the radio.
Okay.
So,
well, that's good.
But it's cool because like when I was growing up, so I'll tell you a quick story.
Yeah.
I love telling this story. So my grandpa used to own a music store up in Albany, Georgia. And so my mom's side of the family, they grew up very musical, marching band, they did all the bands. And when I was, I want to say 4 years old, my grandpa called my mom and was like, hey, I'm coming down to Jacksonville. I'm coming down to visit. I'm going to bring a present for Alex. I'm going to bring a musical present for Alex. And my mom goes, sure, no problem. Come on down. Just don't bring a drum set. It's way too loud. We're not doing that. Because she kind of had an idea of, okay, he's going to bring something down. He always used to bring down something from his music shop. And she was like, okay, no problem. Come on down. Come visit. Just don't bring a drum set. It's way too damn loud. He comes down 4 hours later. He had a drum set. And ever since that day, I've been playing drums.
That's awesome.
So it's been kind of cool because I have my mom's side of the family. So I started with lessons on piano with just doing lessons with my mom and then quickly branched out into drums. So with my dad's side of the family, it's very non-musical,
right.
But they have a great taste in music.
Right.
So I've gotten, once again, very blessed. I got the musical, the theory aspect, kind of going back to that realm, the notation, all that good stuff. And then my dad's side of the taste and the ear training and all that stuff. So I think that's been a huge part of how I teach now is because that's what I grew up on. And, I'm only 24, but I can tell you from my experience that's what works. That's what works. So it's been very cool coming up from having both sides of the aisle.
Full spectrum understanding, I'm curious as to what, when you're younger, especially when you're playing music when you're young, you're forced to practice, and there's this kind of like
you still have the mentality of I gotta practice 30 minutes a day.
Yeah, and there's this kind of resentment towards it almost, but you're being forced to do it, and then at some point, the force stops, and then all of a sudden it's like, now I want to do it.
Yes,
I don't know what it is. Maybe there's something like there's a repetition that's happened, and like there's something instinctively at a certain point where you feel like you're not accomplishing something if you don't do it.
Yes.
But then there's also this idea of like, well, now that I don't have to, now that I'm not being told to do this,
that's
now I
huge. That's
want
a
to
huge
do it.
part of it, dude.
Yeah.
And like I've gotten to the point now where if I can't be around my instrument, even a practice pad or a drumstick, like I went to Colorado 2 or 3 weeks ago, repping the Telluride shirt, but I had to bring my practice pad and drumsticks. Like I can't, it sounds insane, but I don't know if I can physically go without my instrument or with my drums or something, even just listening. I can't go without it for more than 3 or 4 days. Like I think, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's something that it's a God-given gift, or I don't know if it's something that's innate, primal, or maybe you just had a great teacher that's really pushing you. That's another aspect. There's a lot of different roads you can take down to get to that point. But yeah, I feel like you do come to that point where it's like, okay, I'm not really forced to be doing this anymore. And that's honestly why, you're a teenager. You'd be told, that's how I was when I was a kid. I was hard-headed. You tell me not to do something, and that made me want to do it 50 times more and figure it out myself. So I feel like that's just part of it. But once you get into the realm of you're not being forced to do it anymore, and you get more creativity and it's more passion-driven, then I feel like that's when your mindset changes. So like I said, now it's not like, oh, I have to practice, or, oh, I practice an hour a day, or now it's literally to the point where I have to have it. It's like a drug.
Yeah, totally.
And it truly is. Like, it's my therapy. Like, I mean, we can go down the mental health route in terms of music and how it's helping people out. Like, dude.
Well, there's for a lot of people,
it's an outlet.
Yeah, man. And there's
my outlet.
There's a, hopefully a healthy person doesn't attach all their identity to it. I'm not a healthy person, so I do.
I'm not either. And we're musicians, so
yeah, exactly.
Take that advice with a grain of salt.
Yeah, totally. But that being said, even if you attach some of your identity to it, when you don't pursue it, even at a hobby level, if you're just practicing, doing it for yourself, there's a sense of not being fulfilled, right?
Dude.
Even if it's 10% of who you are, 5%, that 5%. Especially if there's a deficit in other areas of your life, that means something to people. You know, so just a part of that being your identity. If you're not exploring that or feeding that impulse, then it goes somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
And it's better that it goes into music than literally anything else.
Yes.
And
that brings me to like another point. So I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of friends in the music industry, and I have a lot of friends that are also not in the music industry. And this is something that I realized that I was very, very blessed with, is like I got an idea of what I wanted to do and what my passion was from high school.
Same.
I'm friends with very wealthy 40, 50-year-olds that are extremely wealthy in terms of, finances. They have no clue what they want to do with their life, and they're not happy at all.
Totally.
Dude, I'm sure Chris will agree with us. Like, we are extremely blessed in the sense of we have our passion. We know what we love to do. A, and then B, we get to do that. Like, I have a lot of, and even friends my age that are still trying to figure stuff out. Like, I didn't really think about it that way, because this is always something that was a part of me, and that who I attached myself with, and what I love doing. But I have a lot of friends that have no idea what they want to do, and are trying out this thing, and maybe their parents are super successful, so there's that pressure on them to make something of themselves.
They have to subdue that passion, and that kills people.
They don't know what their passion is.
Right.
And like I said, I know kids are my age. I know adults. They don't know why they've been put on this earth. What's their drive? What wakes them up in the morning? What's their passion? Like, dude, we are extremely blessed to have that.
Totally,
like,
man.
that's something that I feel like we take for granted a lot.
All the time. But I try to make an effort to think about it as much as I can, because sometimes you do need that perspective.
Yes.
When you're having bad days, or when you're going to play a gig that you don't want to do, or whatever, you're just like, so many people, maybe most people in the world don't have anything that they really care about at that level. And maybe at the level that we're obsessed with it, maybe it's unhealthy.
It is.
But at least we have something that we care about that much. I would rather attach my identity to something that's ambiguous and non-tangible,
sure,
than have no direction or passion at all. At least like I can wait. At least if I waste my life pursuing something, I did it in pursuit of something
that you loved.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, I think that that's so important, man. We have to definitely think about that more often, because it's easy to get down on yourself.
That's, we were talking before the pod about, this project is failing, and that is this, that, and the other. And every musician goes through that. Every business person goes through that. Every human goes through that. Like, and I was talking to Chris about this the other day. Like, I try to kind of see everything with think of how you're blessed because of it. Like, I don't know, man, I'm just so blessed to be doing what I love. It's like honestly insane.
Totally.
Like, it's hard to put into words. And like I said, like the mentality of like knowing what I want to do and knowing why I've been put on this earth and having a passion, like just realizing that not everybody has that has been insane for me. Cause like I said, a lot of my buddies don't have that, but I try to see everything, even if it is a complete, cause there's bands that they're just, when you think of a band and that you're in and you're just like, this is nothing but negative. What we were talking about the other day is like, hold on, let's take a step back and pull some positives from it. So you know, we're not going to name specific things, but like with a specific project, say everything that you're getting out of that project is negative. Well, guess what? Guess what you can take away from that project? From that project moving forward, a positive you can take out of it is how to not run things.
Right.
So, you know, you have a liaison of the band that's just running things in the dirt. Things aren't working out. Fill in the blank. Finances, you know, how the band's operating, creativity and writing, whatever you have you. It's not going well. Well, guess what? That's a negative right now, but you can take that negative and in future projects and wherever your career takes you on that stepping stone process, you know how to not operate. You know how not to do things.
And you formed relationships. You've had experiences that, you know, again, like, you know, whether good or bad, you can move that forward. But the relationships too that you form in those scenarios that can turn into something else down the road. You know, it's like there's just every scenario that you're in can, if you just choose to perceive it a certain way,
yes, dude.
Then you can perceive it negatively or positively, you know, and that's it. Everything in life, again, is just about perspective.
Yes.
Like, you know, if you're somebody that wants to be defeated, you will only look at the way that thing is defeating you.
If you want to play the victim, you're always going to be a victim.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
And that goes with life. So another kind of similar story along with that is like, you know, this person was saying like, oh man, all you guys do is like kind of make fun of my musicianship and this, that, and the other. And it's like, that makes me not want to play. Okay, well, what you just said. So it's all about how you take, it's all about your mentality and how you take energy like that. So for me, somebody's kind of making fun of how I'm playing. You know, maybe they're cracking jokes, or maybe they're actually being dead ass serious. Like, yo, like this isn't good. You're not hitting it for us. When I'm so that's something, that's a moment that's happened. Okay, so there's two ways you can go about that moment. The first way is you can throw away your instrument and be like, all right, I'm done. I'm not practicing. This is how they're going to treat me. I'm done. You know, screw them. That mentality. That's not the mentality I want to have. I want to have the complete opposite mentality. Is like, okay, this is a challenge. I'm not acting up to par. I need to go practice. I need to go shed. I need to get better. Like, there's two, and like what you said, there's two ways you can approach every situation with music and in life. You can let it beat you up. You can play the victim, which if you get in that mindset, that's just going to happen to you over and over and over and over throughout your whole entire life. Or you can take that moment and build on it and get better.
Yeah, it's fueling or it's parasitic. You decide. You know, that's what it is.
That's all it is.
We should do some bottom line news.
Let's do it.
It's been. I've loved this conversation.
Yeah, dude,
so
this
far.
is good stuff.
Awesome.
Did we get a pee break?
Dang, bro. I think it's a better look, to be honest.
You think?
Yeah.
Damn, well, you're the first person that said that, bro.
Without the stash?
Yeah.
I think you look better without the stash.
Oh, without it? Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, dude, before it was just a pedo stash, bro.
Yeah,
well,
I can't grow facial hair.
I don't know if you remember because you were hammered when I saw you at the tequila festival over here.
Oh, dude, wasn't there?
Oh, what a party that was.
I was like, I walked up and like you and Chris came back with the fucking yacht hats, and I was like, you look like you have at least 2 sons in rehab.
Just one, but don't worry about it.
R.I.P. Easton.
Oh my gosh, no, yeah, you look, dude.
I was fucking with you. It was
No, but you're not wrong, dude. Everybody was giving me shit and like.
Oh, hold on, let me interject. We had a game and a point system where we would just roast Alex with pedo jokes, and we would each assign each other points in the band and just be like, KP would roast him. All right, 2 points. Juge would get him.
Hey, but you know
4
what?
points.
You know what is the saying? The straw that breaks the camel's back. My brother said something about it. He's like, you know, you look like a straight up pedo, right? I was like,
I thought the straw that broke the camel's back is when you did it.
Did what? Oh, shaved it? No, that's what made me shave it, is my brother saying that I look like a straight up pedo. And I was like, all right, this thing's got to go. I can handle shit from everybody else, but when my own brother is like, dude, this is insane.
That's hilarious. He is your older brother?
He's my younger brother,
Younger brother. That's wild that you give your... I have a younger brother. There's virtually nothing he could say to me that would make me want to change something.
Really?
It's not because I love my brother to death, but he's my younger brother. I grew up beating him up.
Same.
And it's just like... So like now the dynamic is like... there's
how much younger though?
3 years.
Okay, mine's about 2-3 years. You too, yeah.
Yeah, 2.5 years to be exact.
Damn,
yeah.
same.
Yeah. So it's like if he says shit to me, I'm just like, I will eat you. He could probably kick my ass now because he's a little bit bigger than me, but it doesn't matter.
I'm kicking my brother's ass if he's watching this. I'm kicking his ass. He knows that.
But it doesn't matter. Like I know that I can still beat him up though because it's the older brother syndrome. They're always gonna have that in their head. Like you were the
That's true.
The older one, like it's just a different dynamic. You know what I mean?
See, and he told me the other day we were at Bible study at our church Wednesday night, and we're sitting in front of our entire Bible study group, and he goes, "Yeah, he's like talking about he's going to the gym and this, that, and the other, and I'm bigger than my brother. I know I could whip his ass. He's like, I'm stronger than you. I'm like, in what way? If we throw down right now, I'm going to destroy you.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you have upper body strength, I have lower body strength, and then he said in front of the entire group, he goes, well, you kind of got a gut. I got a gym membership the next day.
Yeah,
I'm not kidding. When he was the one that made fun of me for the pedo stash, I got rid of the pedo stash. When he was the one that said I got a gut, I went to the gym. When my brother says something, I take it seriously.
That's kind of.
I love that boy and I respect him. Shout out Jason Hamby.
I respect that. That's cool. That's cool.
I love that boy.
On that note, we're back.
Come on.
Are we back, Chris?
Oh, we're back.
We're back.
Oh, we back, baby.
You can leave all that in, by the way.
Oh, we're leaving that in.
All right, so we got some bottom line news coming your way. What do we got this week, Chris?
All right, so there's a kind of a big ripple in the music industry. This plugin software Waves is kind of like a kind of entry-level industry standard for producers and musicians getting their feet wet and working in DAWs. This is like kind of accessible plugins that work really well, easy to use kind of thing.
Right.
They've been selling bundles for years. It was like the first audio bundle I got was like $150. I got EQs, compressors, limiters, like all the tools I really need to kind of get in the door at least. It's been great stuff. And this week they announced that they're changing their model to a subscription-based plan. So basically for the top plan, it's $250 a year. For like the kind of 101 plan, it's $150 a year. So it's really a lot of musicians I've talked to and seen kind of view it as almost like a betrayal from this company that's like worked so long with like, up and coming people. It is just, what I paid for one time and have used for 5 or 6 years since is now going to be a yearly charge for people. And it's, that's
or a monthly charge.
So I paid $150 for like the bundle I had, and for like the kind of the entry level bundle, that it looks like it's going to be $150 a year according to this like website I'm looking at.
Right. But at some point, like the software that you bought, I'm not saying that what you currently have is outdated, but at some point the software does become kind of outdated and you have to make another purchase again, right?
Well, actually, so they have like a upgrade license. So I think maybe it's once a year or something. I forget like that, but they essentially upgrade it. And maybe they don't add a ton of new features, but they up the kind of the interface. They kind of modernize everything. If there's something that's buggy and not working, like they're very good about like taking care of their customers, and like that's kind of how they became such a staple in the community. Like in terms of plugins, like there's a lot of kind of third party indie plugins, like the Wolfpack compressor has become like a really popular one. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of examples of stuff like that, but like Waves is kind of like your entry level, and like UAD is kind of like your top shelf level, but like those are some of like the biggest names.
Is UAD doing a subscription model also?
I think they're still on a sales base, but
that'll change.
But how long until they go to this?
Yeah, that'll change. Everything is subscription. Like Adobe's doing it too, and like
everything.
Yeah.
And the thing is, so the better question or the better conversation I think here is subscription model versus whatever the standard has been up until now. And I don't know how I feel about it, because it seems like it's a good idea for. I'm speaking from a consumer point of view right now, right? As a consumer, to me, if you're one of, let's say 10 companies offering that plan, let's say everybody else is still on the traditional model of like just buying the software and then you're good to go for X amount of years. If you're the one company offering a subscription model, that sounds dope, right? Like I would be down for this for the subscription model. That being said, like how many subscriptions do I fucking need at this point in my life?
But everything's moving to that. Everything's a subscription.
Yeah. Because
outside of music too, everything is a subscription.
But that's what I'm saying. Like how many? At what point are we like we're gonna end up spending? People are gonna spend their entire net worth on subscriptions. It's like it's insane. Dude. We're talking about every channel now is starting their own streaming platform.
Yes, everyone has. Yeah.
And then like now Adobe has the subscription model too, and that only gets you a limited amount of stuff. If you want more, you have to upgrade to like way more than $25 a month.
Oh yeah, I mean it's like $100 a month.
And then even still within that, like Adobe Stock, which is a program that within Adobe that I had to pay extra for just to get stock background images. You still have to pay for the stock background images once you're paying the subscription fee. It's like, what are we doing, guys?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's too much, and I don't know. I think it's a smart move on the business side, though. It keeps your people locked in. They sign a contract, probably a year minimum. If you break it, they pay a fee, or you pay a fee. And then on top of that, people stop using it, and then they're still paying. They forget about it.
So my question would be, so in terms of outweighing like costs and benefits, Chris, are they adding stuff that's actually like, okay, well, I can see myself paying? Like, are they actually going to like add stuff that's like, okay, I can see myself paying a monthly subscription for this, or are they just going to keep like the same model?
Not for the price point. Like it looks like
eliminating there's eliminating the upfront cost, right? So rather than somebody saying, man, I gotta pay $800 for this thing, it's like, man, $800 is a lot of money. $25 a month it seems a lot more manageable,
especially for musicians.
Yeah, and the business makes and for them it's it makes a lot more sense for them.
For them, sure. To me, it's like, it does seem like it really kind of like a turning your back on the base that built you kind of thing. It's
well, yeah, but they have to compete. They have to. Everything is moving in that direction.
They're
not the first ones.
Their price points are already competitive as it was. And I get it. It's, to me, it seems. Look, you're right. It definitely benefits the corporation. It's like,
I mean, if people here's the reality within the market that they're existing in right now. If they want to keep providing a service to people, they're going to have to switch the model. I'm sure before they made this decision, there was a lot of conversations about, can we keep our current platform the way that it is? And then the decision was like, not if we want to stay competitive. And so what they're doing now is that they're offering, I don't know what other companies are charging, or I know some of the DAWs are doing the same thing. It's like, they're moving in the direction so they can stay competitive and still offer the service to people that find it so rewarding. Otherwise, what happens is they keep their model, they can't compete, and they fail, and then no one gets the benefit from it.
So if I could offer like a business analogy,
please.
So let's look at a business. Let's look at Blockbuster. Mm-hmm. Right? Blockbuster was dead stuck on, you're going to come to our place, you're going to rent the movie, this, that, and the other. They had their way of operating. Then guess what happened? Netflix came along, and they said, we can do that same thing, but we can do it for cheaper and for better. And then they completely took over Blockbuster. I feel like this, in terms of the business, is like kind of the same thing. They're adapting. What? Oh no, I'll let you finish. I disagree, but really? I want to hear you out though. I really do disagree, because to me, because it's like a physical brick and mortar versus something online that you get is like it's a different comparison versus like but adapt your business. So here you've now got something that's like, okay, I say if you adapt business, that's fine, but like build a hybrid. Like my thing is like, all right, cool. So you've got someone like maybe myself that's like playing gigs, not a lot of money, but has a drive to like get in this world, in this industry. You're now going to drive me to another place to do my business. Okay, well, so where are you going to go? So where are you going to go, dude? So that's the thing. There's, like I said, there's other third-party companies out there. You're going to go find... You don't even know their names. I don't know. I definitely don't. So you're not going there if you don't even know their names. But you can bet your ass that I would do my research and go find a place where I could go. But then also and take a one-time purchase because I'm a broke musician. Right. Like I can't back in the day I couldn't have afforded this. And people did that when Pro Tools switched over. A lot of loyal Pro Tools people jump ship. And guess what's still the industry standard? It's not that cut and clean anymore, man. I know that it's not, but it's still most people will still consider it the industry standard. I know that there's more, that it's diversified. I know that. Yeah. But it's still the industry standard. And when it comes to plugins and for engineers and producers that trust the product, a lot of them don't want to have to go and find smaller companies that they might not trust and spend the money on a one-time buy if it's $300, $400, $500, and you're like, man, I really don't like this. And sure. I'd rather just pay the $25 a month. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's fine. It's just like,
I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
Sure.
I don't know how I feel about it because like I'm kind of conflicted about the subscription model. Like to me, it's hard as a consumer.
It feels so. I mean, like it's a capitalistic thing. It's a sure.
Well, capitalism is great, but
if you got no, hold on. If you've got to upgrade your model, that's fine. But like, why not go to a hybrid model first and say like, look, we want.
So that's what you would do.
On. So if it were me in my company, I would incentivize going to a subscription, but still offer the thing because
that's what Netflix does. You can still literally. There was an interview. There's a podcast called Smartlist that's hilarious with Jason Bateman and Will Arnett. Sean Hayes, and they had the owner of Netflix on there, and they were making jokes about people still get having not returning their DVDs yet. Like I still got that one DVD,
like the Redbox thing.
Yeah, and he was like, you'd be surprised. We have 60,000 subscribers that still order physical DVDs because because internet isn't available everywhere. So they still like order it from Netflix. Or the streaming capabilities aren't there, weak internet, whatever it might be, to stream. So it's like they still order, or some people. There's a lot of old people that just don't want to do the streaming thing. So 60,000 subscribers on Netflix still order physical DVDs, so they keep that service open. So something to be said for what you're saying too, Chris.
So and there's another thing that you actually just brought up in my mind that's kind of an issue is like when you have a subscription base, there is a verification process. So now to use these plugins, you have to be connected to the internet to verify your subscription.
That's a problem.
So like, okay, I want to go mix on an airplane or this and that. Like to me, there's just more cons that outweigh.
You can buy Wi-Fi on an airplane.
That's great, but another fucking subscription, cool beans, bro. Yeah. Like if it were me, I would rather I paid $150 for my bundle. I'd rather them offer it also now for $300 now, because the bundle I have ends up costing $150 a year through the subscription. I would rather pay $300 and pay for 2 years outright, knowing I can use it for 5 years after that, than to just pay.
But that's
$600 over 5 years.
That's why they're not giving you the option, bro. Because most people are going to take that option.
Pro Tools did that though, and Pro Tools switched over Avid, and that's what I did when I bought my copy of Pro Tools. Was there was a hybrid blend, and it was more expensive to buy it, and that's so I'm speaking from what I've done before. Those models are out there in this industry. And I don't know, man.
I'd be curious as to why they made the decision to not do that. Maybe they did an analysis of it. Maybe they looked at the data from other companies and they were like, yeah, this doesn't seem like it's working for them. Let's just do the subscription. It's not, or the juice isn't worth the squeeze to have people that are oversee that side of things. You have to hire people. Yeah. Then you have to keep track of that. There's server data for your website. There's all this extra overhead that comes with just having an extra department for something that may not be yielding much results.
The only other thing I want to add on this is that and just in my circle, in my scene, like between friends and other businesses I follow and stuff like that, the response has not been overwhelmingly positive. Like I haven't seen one friend excited about it, one this, and I've seen other companies. Like I just showed Alex this mic company that I'm a big fan of, posted a meme just roasting.
That was a funny meme.
That was
a good meme.
Roasting them. So it seems like even people in the industry are kind of like, all right, cool. This is so, and that's just a perspective thing. Maybe it's just a funny thing to jump on and do, whatever. But like, I haven't seen a bunch of people be like, oh, this is really great for us and everyone. But that's, it doesn't have to be great for us. It's their business. They can do whatever the fuck they want. It's, that's fine. But that's just what I've seen around the ether these past couple days.
It's interesting for me talking about this because the way that y'all operate with DAOs and stuff like that is, I think, definitely different from me. So like when I want to go record drums, I have a guy I go to, and like even I've hit y'all up about doing video and whatnot for me for doing stuff like that. So in terms of my personal experience with my career, I haven't delved deep into, and it's something I want to do. I haven't delved deep into operating with my own DAOs and doing my own stuff. When I want to do stuff like that, I don't know. I've talked to Chris about this before. Like I don't give a crap about all the DAO and I'm mixing and mastering.
I'm with you. I hate it.
I can't. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. So, I can't stand it. I'd rather outsource it.
I still have.
I'd outsource it all day.
I still have Logic though. It's $200.
But you're a singer-songwriter.
Yeah. So it's easier because I can just use one microphone. And
I'm a drummer.
Yeah, it's a lot more.
And with drums, the capital. Hear me out. The capital that goes into recording drums versus singer-songwriter is thousands of dollars.
You need a larger interface.
If you want to do it properly.
Yeah, you need a larger interface. You need like more microphones.
I need at least 8-10 microphones. Like you need 2 microphones and you can plug in, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You can go DI. I ain't doing that. I need 8 to 10 microphones. I need this, that, and the other. So for me, it's just interesting talking about this kind of stuff because this is not a realm that I'm very familiar with because I always outsource it. I have a guy that I go to that Chris has met that if I need drums to record, whether it's for a project he's working on or something personal, I'll hit up y'all to do video and I'll hit up him to do all the mixing and mastering. So it's very interesting talking about this because I don't have a lot of experience with it.
Yeah. It's not as far as like plugins and stuff. Like, I'm not an engineer, right? I like producing in the sense where I like to be in the room with the engineer, and communicate what I'm looking for and have them, make it happen type thing. But like the button pushing and all like it's just I'm a guitar player and
we're a musician, we're not an engineer.
Exactly. And I want to focus on that.
Exactly.
So I will usually, if I'm trying to do real work, I will outsource it. That being said, because it's so easy for me as a singer-songwriter and a guitar player, I can plug, one microphone in and go direct in, get scratch tracks, get my ideas down, and I'm good to go. That takes no like knowledge at all.
Chris, what do you think about that? Because I know your opinions are a little bit different about it, especially with your college background studying that kind of stuff.
I'm kind of a hybrid, and that's just kind of a force of how I ended up in the game is like I do, dabble in production. I'm doing production right now. But I don't do it at the level like. Our other producer Jay is, he's an engineer. I think first and foremost, and kind of like maybe he and I are almost like a mirror in terms of like, he's got the musicality and his musicality reflects my production side. So I think it's super important to have that world of both. But I know that I'm doing essentially just enough to get me like maybe a step ahead or a step in the door. Like I can walk into a studio and speak the language maybe a degree or two more than your average musician or something like that. Yeah. So like in that sense, it's helped me a lot. Like I feel like I've gotten so much more out of it by being just a extremely basic engineer. Like I don't use my home studio for really professional work. I mean, like, but I have used it for work. I've like some of the vocals and parts from the new Alchematic record were cut at my home space and like
which sound insanely awesome, by the way.
Thank you, man. So just knowing how to get what you need out of your space. I'm
stoked for that stuff to come out, dude. That stuff sounds
I can't. It's gonna.
Chris was showing me the other day. I was like, whoa, it sounds great.
What's going on here? But some of that was cut at the home space. So like having that, like that saved me hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Sure. Like cutting ideas, cutting parts, and they're parts that aren't the forefront. So like. Tonally speaking, for my lead vocals, for my drums, like all that stuff I want in the highest quality room with high quality mics. But like your background vocals, like keys went DI. I don't necessarily need the craziest preamps or things like that. I can cut that. So I don't know, man. Like it's just one of those things. Like I kind of enjoy it because I've spent enough time where it's like a bit of a.
But seriously, though, you actually enjoy doing that stuff.
I do. It's like and it's. To me, it's like another instrument. Like I picked up bass as a guitar player and I love playing bass. And it's like having another instrument that I'm not great at, but good enough at, So
it's exactly like that. Yeah. It's another muscle.
Yeah. So whenever I'm working on it, I do I learn things, I get quicker at stuff. So like, I don't know, for me, it's a great B instrument, C instrument, whatever.
And that's interesting. Cause like today, like, being a musician doesn't just mean you're good on your instrument. You have to have your podcast. You have to have your recording studio. You have to have people that you can use for that. Like, gosh, dude, especially with social media and stuff like that. Like most of the stuff I've used is just a GoPro and maybe some audio from that or from my phone because I'm not doing anything professional in terms of stuff I'm posting on social media. But like. How far you can go with that as a musician nowadays, like it's not enough to just be a killer musician.
No, it's not.
It's insane.
And there's a podcast based out of Orlando. This guy Chris G. He used to be the talent buyer at this place called Back Booth Room. that I played at years ago. He's a great guy, but more importantly, he's got this wealth of knowledge. He's worked for like huge agencies, and he's represented huge artists. And he has a podcast now called Making It with Chris G. And he interviews all kinds of industry people at the highest levels. And he was interviewing this A&R rep from Capitol Records, or forget which label it was, but it was a major label. She was talking about what they're looking for in musicians now. And she said exactly that. She's like, we're not, it's not enough just to be a great songwriter or a great band or an artist. She's like, now we want to see multifaceted, artists. So like, let's say,
how many followers do you have? Like that stuff actually becomes a part of the question.
That's the A&R work now. Whereas 30 years ago or 20 years ago, the A&R work was going to clubs and checking bands out. Now they're just scrolling TikTok and Instagram. That's
more word of mouth to social media.
Yeah, totally. And then beyond that, when she was talking about signing people from the labels end of it, she was like, we're looking for artists that have a multifaceted business plan, right? So, if you're an artist and you have another business, then maybe we talk about a piece of that business too coming into play, because music on as far as sales go is not what it was. So if you want investment, you need to be able to, they need to make sure their investment is protected. So let's say you're a musician and you have a podcast. Well, what's that podcast generating? Yep. Great. Well, let's say you're a great songwriter with a podcast. It's doing well. We'll invest in that because we know that we can take 10% of your podcast that's generating X amount of revenue. So if we don't see the return here, at least we're making it up here.
Yeah.
And it's like, so that's how it's operating now, which is kind of like predatory, but it's also like, I get it, because they're investing time and money into something and with no chance of return.
Yeah. Like, and in terms of endorsements too, there's a simple company that I would love to work with. And I've noticed that a lot of the artists they're hiring, it almost seems like from a outside perspective, it's solely off of YouTube views and subscribers.
That's what it is nowadays.
Like how much clout do you have, and how much? Because and I understand that because it's a business thing. If we partnership with you and we give you all this stuff, what can you do for us? How many views? If we give you all this endorsement and we say that you're a artist, what are you bringing in for us? Like that is a partnership, and I get that in terms of endorsement, but like it's just crazy just to think about, like, even just 2 decades ago, that wasn't a thing.
Right. Well, because back then it was like, how many shows a year are you playing? And like, how diversified are the markets that you're playing? So are you playing 200 shows a year, but like, in one city? Or are you playing 150 shows a year, but like worldwide?
Yeah.
And then that, if it's worldwide, that many shows, what kind of venues are you playing? Are, arenas, theaters, clubs? Are the clubs selling out? Okay, well then we can talk about an endorsement then. And, but if you're playing arenas, we're giving you free shit. Now, if you're playing sold out clubs around the world, maybe you get 50% off.
Yeah.
And if you're playing, regionally at half filled rooms, okay, maybe we give you 10% off, whatever. And we put our name on on the website, whatever. It's just like, but nowadays it's like no one cares about the tours anymore, because first off, since COVID, that's kind of not really fully recovered.
COVID, dude.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's a part of it because it hasn't fully recovered.
No, I'm being serious.
Yet.
It is a part of it, yeah.
And so people, it's like, well, you have, this video is getting, I don't know, 5 million views on TikTok and, 1 million views on Instagram and 500,000 on YouTube. Well, that's more valuable to me as a cymbal company or a string company, because those are people that will come back and watch it again and again and again, versus the people that, and you're a musician checking shit out, versus people that are going to arena shows to listen to the radio most of the time, and they don't really care what you're playing.
Yeah.
So it's like, whatever, 20,000 people at an arena versus 500,000 on YouTube that are musicians watching you. That goes a much further way now.
Yeah, and that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Dude.
I mean, it's
kind of what we were talking about earlier. It's one of those things that, again, it's like, man, I put all these hours in on practicing, and however you think of yourself as a musician in terms of how you can play and perform and play live and whatever. Like, it's almost one of those things where like it doesn't matter. Like it does matter, but like it's just becoming so much more of like, well, how many TikTok followers and views are you getting, and how many Instabook and FaceBase and Snapgram view. It's like,
who's a 33-year-old in the room right now,
dude? Well, and then like back with Time Wise, our band, like right now, like I'm down to build like the social media presence, but like down the road, like if we can outsource that, dude, I don't give a crap about that. I want to be a musician. And it's the same thing with the recording stuff. I want to be a musician.
Yeah.
I don't care. I do care, but I don't care about the recording, right? I want to be a musician. I want to have the musicality aspect. The recording, that's that. The marketability and the social media stuff, I have a little say in that. I have a vision where it wants to go. I know what works and what doesn't work. Mm-hmm. But in terms of doing the posts and following up on the DMs and the likes and the snaps and all that stuff, I don't care. I want to be a musician.
Here's the
but it's important.
Here's a silver lining with all this though, is that as a musician, an artist, whatever you want to call yourself in this industry, whatever role you want to play, at the end of the day, it still has to be about the art. And the most successful people are the people that are about the art. Now, whether we can make arguments about all we want about pop music and whatever, with the pop world, the product isn't just the music, right? It's a full experience that they're selling. It's a brand that they're selling across the board. So maybe the music isn't like what musicians want to hear, right? But that's not the product that they're selling, right? Music is a part of it, but they're selling a different thing, and they're the best at that. You can't tell me that Katy Perry or Lady Gaga, Taylor Swift aren't putting on the best productions in live music today. You just can't tell me that. You know what I mean? And we're not talking about the quality of the music. We're talking about the experience you get at the show. Any one of us could walk into one of those shows and walk out like, God damn, what a production, man. That was an experience.
In terms of a live setting, you mean?
That's what I'm saying. Okay, yeah. And that's all. I'm sure that's so.
And there's so many artists. Ed Sheeran. There's so many pop artists you can put in that category.
Totally.
It's like musically, I don't get. That doesn't.
That's what I'm saying.
It's nothing to us.
Now but the point being that they're the best at what they do. Right now, as a musician, you're not trying to be Lady Gaga. She's the main attraction. She is the brand that people are buying into.
And she's doing jazz stuff now, which I kind of appreciate.
Yeah, great.
She's actually kind of talented.
She's very talented. No, she's very talented.
Before I didn't think she had, auto-tune and all that production value stuff. It's like, okay. But now she started doing it, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is what you sound like without auto-tune. You can actually sing and actually have an idea of what's going on. I'm like, oh, okay.
Most of them can, man. Most of them, the auto-tune, they throw in everything now. It doesn't really matter. It can be perfect. They still throw it on.
That's just kind of like the standard.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
It's just understood that's what's going to...
Exactly. Now, that being said, we look at comedians, and the most successful ones are the ones that are not, for the most part, they're exceptions. But even the ones that are focused on the business side and the marketing side, whatever, they're still hilarious. The ones that are that successful, right?
Sure.
So like some examples that I would use are like Shane Gillis,
dude,
Mark Normand, like these guys.
You like Theo Von?
I like Theo Von,
dude,
bro.
I love Theo Von.
You look like you like Theo Von.
Yeah,
I like chill. I like Chris D'Elia and I like Theo Von, bro. Those are my
you look like
favorites.
You like Chris D'Elia too.
No problem.
So.
I like other ones too.
Yeah,
but those are my two favorites.
Those are your two favorites.
Who's some of your favorite comedians?
Shane Gillis is my number one right now.
Really?
I love him. Mark Norman's really funny.
Yes.
Those are guys that I would use. Sam Morril is hilarious.
Yes.
Who's
that guy we were talking about the other day? Chris. His name's Chris.
Chris
Stefano.
Oh, he's
Chris
great.
Stefano, dude.
Yeah, he's great.
With Sal Vulcano from Impractical Jokers.
Yeah, Hey
that
Babe.
podcast is.
Hey Babe. Yeah.
Hey Babe is so funny.
Are you garbage
So
guys too?
That's some good stuff.
Added that. So let's.
Sorry, didn't mean to sidetrack you.
Not at all. Not at all.
I love comedy. I love comedians.
Yeah, me too. It's my passion outside of music.
And they're kind of in a similar realm than.
That's why it's fun for me to watch. Is I can watch it and appreciate the full scope without getting anxiety because I'm not doing the same thing because I'm not a comedian, right?
I feel that.
So it's like when I listen to music podcasts, I get anxiety because I'm like, I get all of it and I'm getting anxiety because I'm not where you're at right now. But like with comedians, I don't need to be where you're at. I'm not a comedian, but I get it though.
It's
right?
relatable, but not.
Exactly. It's that. So within that realm of it, to me, the people that are finding huge success are guys like Shane Gillis and Mark Normand, Theo Von. Guys are just really about the comedy,
dude.
Right? You're not seeing them like changing the game on the marketing and promo side or social media side. You're just seeing them do the standard, but because all they care about is the comedy. On the other end of that, you got Andrew Schultz, who is fucking hilarious, but then is also such a brilliant marketing guy.
Yes.
Right. So he's the full package. But you don't need to be that to be successful. You know, if you just commit to what you care about, which is the art, your art form, then you got to use the social media. You got to play the game a little bit, but like minimum effort on that side and just be good.
But is he the marketing man? Like
Andrew Schultz,
Yes.
he's a visionary. Yeah.
Or is his management slash?
No, it's
okay. I
it's
don't
all-
know. I'm truly asking.
It's all. I follow this guy. I watch him like a hawk because I appreciate him that much.
So he doesn't. He's not outsourcing that.
He's outsourcing. He outsources the editing stuff, right? But
well, he keeps that in house.
it's
He's got
in-house,
a team.
right? He's got a team. He employs people, right?
I feel like Trevor Wallace. You
Yeah.
know Trevor Wallace.
Yeah.
I feel like he's kind of in that, not in that same ballpark, but kind of like.
Well, he's not. He hasn't been around long enough yet, but he's
That's
on
true,
that.
that's
He's
true.
on that track. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, I'm following what you're saying.
Yeah. So Andrew Schultz is the head of he's the CEO of his organization, right? Now, the content that's created and what he's done he keeps his people close. He delegates responsibility. At the end of the day, what gets put out is what he signs off on, and he's explaining to people what he wants. They make it happen. He approves it. It's good to go. Now, there's a lot of things happening there. First off, as a leader, great delegator. That's amazing. As a visionary, he knows how to get people to do. He knows how to create actionable content. Actionable content is something that engages the viewer.
Yeah.
So like the thing he did,
It's a response.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What he did on Instagram, like 2 years ago with his 1 minute rants on IGTV when that was still a thing. The whole thing was like you'd be scrolling, you see him, he starts to rant. It's like, okay, now turn your phone sideways, so he can use that the 9:16 ratio format.
Yep.
So that people have to turn. And now they're engaged because they committed, they turned.
Yeah.
And then he goes on a comedy rant on a perspective on something crazy, whatever it is. And then it's like all of a sudden, it was like he became like this thing. It was like that was his idea, right? And made it happen. It's like what a
That's
brilliant
cool.
something as simple as making somebody do something to consume your thing, and it makes people buy in. So he's brilliant on that end, but you don't need to be that. If he loves that shit. As much as he loves the comedy, he loves that, right? You can just love the art. And all you have to do is put your product, make it visible in the marketplace. The marketplace is social media. Like you're saying, do videos, like record, put yourself out there. You have to compete in the marketplace.
Do the social media game.
Yeah.
It's a game.
It's a game. It is that. You have to, these days you have to compete. But you don't need to make it all about that. You can still be all about the art.
Yeah.
And the most successful people are about the art. I don't know. That's my take on all that stuff.
I agree.
Hell yeah.
I agree.
What a crazy bottom line news.
You guys want to do some unpopular opinions?
Well, yeah.
Yes.
Just fucking do it.
Yes.
All right.
What you got, Chris?
All right. Let's keep it spicy.
Here we go.
I think gatekeepers in like the music sense in the industry are an overall positive thing for the industry. It sounds a little harsh. It sounds a little, I don't know, but
Have you been called a gatekeeper before, Chris?
oh, definitely not. Don't come to my jams.
Oh Lord, have
Or do Monday nights at Perfect Rack starting. What date is it?
April 3rd.
Oh, this will be
every-
out already,
upcoming
so-
Monday.
Well, every other Monday.
yeah,
So don't come next week. We won't be there, but then the week after that.
Okay, well, but maybe come next week because this is not airing before April 3rd. so.
Check the Perfect Rack Jam
Look at your
Instagram
calendar.
page,
Yeah.
and we have its own
Do
Instagram.
calendar.
Anyway,
So what do you-
gatekeepers, man.
Gatekeepers, huh?
I think don't set the barrier of entry ridiculously high. Don't don't actively persuade people from doing it, but I like it in the sense of almost keeping certain things relatively pure. Like almost it might be like if you look at blues or reggae or something like that, like there's a certain level of authenticity in these genres that can kind of get washed away when everyone does it. And I think, like the term, it really kind of does keep this, kind of every market's going to get a little saturated, this and that, but there's if it's not looked at as such a negative thing, and it's more of like, oh, this is just someone who's like trying to keep this thing alive in its authentic original form, like I think it could almost be like a positive. I don't know that it needs to be such a negative term overall, but that's a pretty radical way of looking at that term. So what y'all think?
I'm trying to unpack what you're saying. So are you saying that I'm trying to unpack it. So like you're saying that gatekeepers have a negative connotation to it, and you're against
in general
that?
Yeah, in general, I think they're a good thing for music at the end of the day. Like
it definitely can be, yeah,
in a certain thing. Now, and that
depends on the gatekeeper.
There's a stipulation to that. Like, you know, there's some people out there that'll say, oh, you can never cut it. You shouldn't give it a shot. You can't do this. I think if it's more like, hey man, don't use your, you know, Boss Katana on a blues gig, or don't use your Metal Zone pedal.
Is that a gatekeeper, or is that just common sense?
It depends on who you ask, and depends on the day. I don't know if like I said, if the barrier of entry is relatively low, I think it could be like a good, like almost like someone that's like kind of subtly trying to guide you more than just be like a dick and not.
It's a necessary evil.
Sure.
Yeah,
and I also think it's just depends on. Man, everybody's definition is going to be different, but I think it depends on your definition of what is a gatekeeper. Because like what you just mentioned, for me personally, okay, that's not a gatekeeper. That's common sense. So I think,
or a mentor, maybe.
Sure. So I think, I mean, no matter who we ask this question to or who we pose this, you know, debate, quote unquote, to, I think the first thing you have to start off with anything is what is your true definition of a gatekeeper? And for everybody, based on their perspective, that's going to be different.
I mean, I think it's a pretty objective definition. I think that gatekeepers are people that are the barrier to entry to wherever you're trying to be. So, you know, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, you know, if you want to get into a real recording studio and produce a real record, you need to have label support because number one, they had the finances. Number two, they had access to all the best recording studios, and you weren't going to get in there unless you had the money,
sure,
which you couldn't afford at that time.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, they're working with the agencies and the management companies and the PR companies and the marketing companies, and at a certain level, they're all working within this. You know, I forget what the number was, but there's a few hundred people, you know, musicians, artists, and then people working with the subsequent industries of that. Let's say a couple thousand people total in the world. They're operating at this one level. Now, in the world of gatekeepers, in order to get access to the top resources, to see the ultimate success financially and otherwise, you need to be able to get approved by the people that are at the top of the game. What's happening nowadays is that you can produce pop quality music for almost nothing, and then you can go on the platforms. You know, you can use any CD Baby, DistroKid, whatever you want, and you can distribute it across every streaming platform in the world in a click of a button. Whereas 30 years ago, you needed to have somebody who had access to real distribution, that had the in to all the record shops, CD stores around. So those are the gatekeepers.
So,
in that context, yeah.
Okay.
And I think there's different gatekeepers in each in like a live music context, a studio recording context, within genres.
It all feeds each other again. Sure. Representation, agents, management that work on the live music side, you know, with booking gigs and negotiating contracts. That's all tied in to the same thing.
Sure.
You know?
So in terms of being dogmatic here, Anton, you're for gatekeepers. Just being dogmatic, like a yes or no question.
I think that it's a necessary evil because what's happening now is like Spotify is talking about charging people that aren't generating X amount of revenue just to be on the platform. Yeah. And it's like, well, that's happening because we're just letting anyone upload. It's 100,000 uploads a day to Spotify. Yeah. That's insane, right? And a lot of it's dog shit, and a lot of good shit gets buried because of it, right?
Yeah.
So if you have people that kind of can help regulate that, then maybe it's not a bad thing. But there needs to be more diversity within the elite group that gets to decide that, right? You can't just be like, this is a status that you need to be at if you want to write a record. Well, okay, but there's different tiers of this shit, right? We're all trying to accomplish different things.
Sure. And okay, so that's there's just so many different ways we can approach this. So, okay, let's just water it down real quick to maybe more of a terms on like, let's look at it in the Jacksonville scene, which we're all very, very, very familiar with. In terms of the gatekeepers, maybe in the open jam scene, the gig scene in Jacksonville, because obviously what we just talked about is big picture. We're talking about Spotify, we're talking about recording, this, that, and the other, record companies. Just to bring it back to Jacksonville in terms of gatekeepers, what would you say? Like, what's your opinion on gatekeepers in terms of the gig economy in Jacksonville?
Well, the problem in Jacksonville is that there's not a diversity. There's no competition here. So whoever's making decisions at that level can set
no competition in what way? Can you unpack that?
Well, as far as like on the representation side for bands and artists, you have people that can just set whatever standard they want, and then
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
and no one's going to compete with that because they're the only game in town, right? Or maybe one or two other people, but that's not enough to compete to set a real competitive market. Then with the jams, right? It's like, well, okay, there's a lot of jams around town, so that I do believe that there is more access to those. To the opportunity to get up there and play with people like that, because you have Monday nights at 1904. Now Chris is doing his thing at Perfect Rack. You have Tuesday nights at Flies, and then YPs. Then you have Wednesday nights at Southern Grill. Like there's a jam. There's multiple jams happening every single night of the week in Jacksonville, right?
Okay. I wanna. This is kind of a sidebar, but I love talking to other musicians about this. So what's your opinion on jams? So I'll talk for me personally. So like. So obviously me and Chris and KP were doing the jam at Perfect Rack. And to be completely honest, jams are not my thing. If I'm truly, how do I want to say this? There's many different ways I can say this. So in my personal opinion, jams are for a couple things. The main thing is to go and network. So if I'm a musician and I need work, the first place, and I work at a lot of schools with a lot of other young musicians that are teaching. And a lot of the questions I get from these young FSCJ, UNF, JU, Jazz Cats, Music Cats, they say, Hamby, where should I go to pick up work? I say, go to the jams, dude, go to the jams. So the jams are great for networking, picking up work. The second thing I think jams are good for would be your listening skills, right? You're calling out tunes that maybe not everybody knows. Your listening skills have to be on point. And if they're not, guess what? Going to the jams over and over is going to make that happen. Mm-hmm. But for me personally, I'm not really seeking out work in that way. Like I've made my connections. I'm very busy. And then B, in terms of my listening skills, I'm getting that Monday through Sunday through the bands I'm playing with, the rehearsals, this, that, and the other, through my students. Jams are cool, don't get me wrong, and they have their place and time. But for me as a musician, in terms of where I'm at with my business, it's kind of a waste of time. Like, I'd rather sit at home and practice. And I think personally, for me, this is opinion. This is something that's subjective, not objective. For me, I get invited to a lot of the jams, and sometimes I truly want to go. Like our bass player Justin. And time-wise, he just started a jam not too long ago over at, where's it at, Chris?
At Rain Dogs.
At Rain Dogs. And he's playing with, was it LPTs?
It's Mylan Allgood on drums, Angel Garcia on keys, and Bryant Patterson on bone.
So, insane players. And I love my boy Justin. And that's a jam I would truly want to go check out. So I just wanted to get your take on, I know we're kind of gearing away from the whole gatekeeper thing, but what's your take on the jam world?
I think it plays a few different things. I mean, the networking and the practice as a musician is obviously great. Depending.
So you agree on that aspect?
Yeah, as far as what depending on the jam, but yeah, they definitely can be.
Yeah.
They definitely
depending on the jam.
Yeah, they definitely can be though.
Yes.
But beyond that, I think supporting. And I'm guilty of this not going enough because we get busy and sometimes you just need some downtime, especially earlier in the week when your weekends are stacked with gigs and stuff.
And then you get a Monday night off and you're like, dude, I'm trying to chill, not play more music.
Right. Yeah. That being said, I think it's important to support the jams because it helps to build a community. And I think that it's also just good as a musician to be able to connect with your peers on a friend level and build relationships on a friend level.
Absolutely.
And we can call it networking if we want, but that to me that's beyond networking. Networking is like trying to establish connections and make contacts or whatever on a strictly transactional level. But I think that it's important because this industry is so quick and things are fleeing and opportunities come and go. And I think that it's important that we establish real relationships, meaningful relationships with people outside of a gig or outside of a studio, whatever, like outside of a working relationship.
Yeah.
And a jam is kind of like, should be looked at as a local watering hole.
Absolutely.
Where we can all go and just catch up. You know, maybe we play, maybe we don't, but like we get to hang out with our friends. We talk about what's going on with us and like just, you know, establish just real connections with other musicians. Because like, you know, in the world of entertainment, show business, whatever, whether you're an actor, musician, or whatever it might be, you know, these relationships are often just so transactional, and it jades people and it waters down the art as a whole. I think that as artists, we need real connection in order to create good art, and I think that helps all of it. You know,
I agree. I mean, when I do show up to the YP's jam, or I filled in a couple of times the 1904 jam, I've been to, you know, as we all have, I've been to a lot of the jams. I'm not downplaying the jams, as you just said. It's insanely great for all those things you just mentioned, and it's also a lot of fun. Like, I'm not trying to sit here and be like, oh, I don't like jams. It's not fun. It's a waste of time. Just for me personally, where I'm at, I'd rather sit at home and truly practice.
Yeah, totally.
But when
or
I
just take a night off.
Yeah, or that, dude. Monday, Tuesday, that's my night off. I got done teaching literally all day. I'm trying my night off.
Right.
But the times I do go out, I'm not trying to water that down. I have a lot of fun playing with KP and whoever it is I'm playing with. And the times I do go out and jam, and I'm trying to make it out to Justin's jam at Rain Dogs, it's all fun. And it is a nice time to just have and not be transactional. Well, here's the money. Here's where we're getting promoted, this, that, and the other, and all the business aspects. It's like, hey, we're just going to hang out.
Just have a real connection with somebody and a musician who gets what you're going through.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's important. It's, you know, I'm 33 now, you know, and friends and like genuine relationships are harder and harder to come by. So as I get older, I start to value the ones that I do have a lot more, and I make more time for it. And I think some of the closest friends that I have now are musicians, and it is because of going to jams and because, you know, and through those jams, sometimes they come and support a show that I'm at or whatever, and then we see each other. Or sometimes it's just like, hey man, what are you doing? You know, on this day, do you want to get together and just jam and just like hang out and or grab lunch or whatever? And it's like you do, and then all of a sudden it's like you're talking to them about personal shit, and you're talking about and all of a sudden you're like, oh, we're friends. Like this is. I find myself like texting you when I'm, you know, at home on a random night, just like, oh, check this, I saw this today, or whatever.
Not just doing business.
Exactly.
And all that.
And that connection is so valuable, especially with musicians, because we're the only people that are going to understand what the other one's going through on any real kind of level, you know.
Because we've either been through it or we're going to go through it. Yeah, exactly. Chris, what's your take on the jam things? I know you've been a liaison over at 1904 for a good bit.
Man, like, you know, I've been a host now at 1904 for like close to 2-3 years, and like we're about to step into another host role, and like I think all the above what both you guys have said about going to jams as like, you know, a jammer and just like a patron is spot on. Like it is good to just go and kick it and, you know, maybe play, maybe not, but like as a host, like a step further is like it's a really rewarding way to give back. Like as a musician, it's kind of like a self-serving career in a sense. Like, yeah, I'm making art and people may or may not like it, whatever. They can consume it, but like it's a lot of me making art and surviving and like making it a business and this and that. But like hosting a jam is like a way for me to directly just give back to the community that put me on and brought me up. Like I can now with Perfect Rack, I'm starting a jam in the same room that I got my legs in. Like that room, I went to that jam probably for a year straight every single week. And like those guys there will attest that I was a staple, not getting paid. I just wanted to be out there, meet the players, learn the tunes, get the hang. So like, and they like took me under their wing. They were all mentors to me. Like it was one of the most valuable things, you know, outside of like music school that I ever did.
Yeah.
So and so just in short, you know, for me, it's super rewarding to just give back in a way that I can actually give back. You know,
and so this like with the Perfect Rack Jam, this is gonna be my first time hosting a jam. I'm only 24. Like so, in terms of that, I was talking to Chris the other night after one of our rehearsals. I think it was for Time Wise. I'm super stoked on that aspect and just getting super connected with the scene in Jacksonville, the networking and all that stuff, like I think the mentality that comes with hosting a jam as opposed to just showing up and playing a couple of tunes with a band or just by yourself, that's two completely different things. My mentality on hosting a jam is completely different than my mentality on just showing up in a jam and playing tunes. What I was talking about previously is more or less the mentality of I'm just going to show up to KP's jam at YP's and just play a couple of tunes. Like for me personally, just showing up and doing that, I personally do not get much out of that. Right.
Right.
I'm rehearsing with those guys 4 or 5 times a week. Literally, that band. Most of the bands in the Jacksonville scene, I'm playing with those guys and rehearsing with those guys. But in terms of being a liaison for a jam, that's a whole new mentality, which I'm very, 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 very excited about. Like, one of my favorite things is meeting new musicians or even old musicians and them just throwing me tunes.
Yeah.
Throwing me tunes. I'm getting their number. And like you said, like, oh, come to find out 6 months later, we're actually friends.
Yeah.
And we actually can connect in a way that's other than financial, business, gig mentality. Like,
well, it happens on the same side of just going to support a jam, and that's why I said it's important to to distinguish like which jam you're going to. Maybe the YP's jam for you because you know all the guys running it is like not the one, but maybe there's another one where there's a lot of great players that you might not know about, and then you go there,
dude,
and you get pushed, and you become aware of a new scene that exists here, and then also maybe you establish some connections, and those connections turn into real relations. The overall thing is that it's important to like. Obviously, if you're running a jam, that's a very important part of creating the opportunity for people to come in, get their chops up, figure out what it's like to be in a gig kind of setting. But furthermore, it's important to support it too, because that's how those opportunities get created. Is only if people show up. Yes. And add financial value to the bar, and then the community value to the scene.
Yeah. So I want to say one more quick thing, and this is something I told Chris and many others before. The Blue Jay
yes.
Jazz Jam. Who's that? Stefan on drums.
Fucking and then Stan Piper on bass.
Kenny Hamilton.
So quick story on that. This is probably 2 years ago. When I first started getting into the scene of gigging and playing music as a profession, I think I've told Chris this before. I used to go to Blue Jay on Tuesday nights by myself. I would sit there. I'd have a notepad, and I'd sit there and I'd sit in the back of the room, hoodie up, notepad, and I just used to take notes on Stefan. I think he's the best drummer in Jacksonville.
Yeah, probably.
I don't
have a problem saying that.
I think dude, that kid's insane, man. God bless that kid. And I haven't even met that kid, And I'm just talking from I've listened to him. I'm dead ass. I used to go to Blue Jay with a hoodie and a notepad and just sit in the back of the room and take notes on him.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much to learn. Not just from him, but the players he's playing with too. Like
him and Stan Piper are probably the greatest jazz rhythm section. I would give him the state of Florida, maybe more.
I would.
You know what I mean?
I would.
And
in terms of their age, like we can talk about John Lumpkin and Ulysses as those cats are older. I'm talking about the young cats, dude. They're insane musicianship.
And like as individual players, yes, but like together, like that unit right there together, like that is
unheard of.
I played a jazz fest one year with Parker Urban. It was Parker Urban hired me for his setup that he had. So it was Parker Urban, me, Stan Piper on bass, and Stefan on drums.
Sheesh.
And
what a band. What a group, bro.
This was like 4 or 5 years ago. Probably 4 or 5 years. Yeah, 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. I just didn't know what to do up there, and like I can confidently say that I bombed on that gig because it was like, first off, it was just being so taken back by how just Stan and Stefan just know each other like that. And John was.
It doesn't make sense.
It's just
It's one of those things that doesn't make sense.
It's like they just I don't at that time I wasn't ready for that. And John.
no one's ready for
it. And John was on fire. You know what I mean? I'm just like, I don't fucking know. Like, why am I here, guys? Like.
I've had those gigs.
Yeah, so like I don't need to be like. Thank you for the opportunity, but like, why am I here?
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Why did you hire me for this?
Yeah. Now, if I can confidently say that if it was now, I'd feel much more comfortable stepping in that scenario.
Sure.
But there was a lot going. I was new to Jacksonville still, right? There was a lot of people there. It's a bigger stage. I'm playing with fucking like the top guys in like in Jacksonville. They could be the top guys anywhere, right? And then like I still don't fully know them yet, and I'm trying. There's so much going on in my head, right? And I'm just like, man, this is not working out for me.
Yeah.
So you know, but yeah, they're the best. So I get why you studied that.
Chris, would you say that's the? I mean, I don't want to say this. You're the best. You're the best. 1904 is the best, but like, but Blue Jay, bro.
I mean, like, if you're looking like strictly at a certain
for jazz,
level, yeah. I mean,
Let's be specific.
I mean,
with
if you're
jazz,
looking,
dude.
yeah, I mean, if you're looking at like conversational based music, you know. Actually, I mean, like between that and the other jam at 1904, the band, the once a month,
Blue Jay,
yeah. What did I say? Oh yeah, at
Blue Jay, yeah.
So I mean, like that is another. I mean, it's a different genre, but like
sure.
I mean, those guys in Mofro have just some of the tightest conversations just by nature of them being in a band together. But like, I'm honestly Blue Jay hosts those two jams.
I should have
right
prefaced that with specifically talking about jazz because I get off to jazz.
But I mean, in terms of jazz, yeah, there's what a conversation.
And like Anton said, I would throw that up on the state of Florida.
Yeah,
honest to God,
yeah.
I like that.
I would throw that up on the state. I would throw that up in the. I mean, I don't know the South, but like definitely the state of Florida. Like that jam is insane. Want to know? We talked about a lot of different steps you should take, and once again, preaching to the choir. A lot of steps that you can take to get good on drums, music, maybe just life in general. Go to the damn Blue Jay Jam and just sit there and listen.
Yeah, totally.
Just be a good listener and listen, and you'll just be a sponge. And that's what we talked about earlier. Like once you're a student, you're always a student. You should always be a sponge. Even when you're 60 years old and you're a virtuoso piano player and you're still practicing 2-3 hours a day, you should be a sponge. And that guy that I was talking about earlier still is. He's always listening. And I just think Blue Jay Jam. I love the 1904 Jam. I love all the jams. But that Blue Jay Jam in terms of jazz is just insane, dude. They got some killer cats over there.
Oh, yeah, totally. What's your unpopular opinion?
My unpopular opinion is that Primus is a legendary band and Les Claypool is a legendary bass player.
That's your unpopular opinion?
Yes.
That's pretty popular. I feel like most
really?
people, I think most people would.
I feel like most people hate that. Chris? Let me get you Chris's opinion.
Yeah.
He knows I'm not the biggest Primus fan. Like
I think Primus is insanely talented.
I'm not a Primus fan either, but that's not to say that they're not some of the most creative and talented people out there doing it.
I don't know how unpopular I want to go, but that was my unpopular opinion because a lot of musicians I talk to, it's a love-hate relationship.
Yeah. Totally. There's a lot of people that don't like them, but I don't know that anybody can say that they're not good or they're not like talented.
Oh man,
there's like
them.
No, I don't. A level of respect, but I can say that I don't like them, but I do hold a level of like respect for their creativity.
Maybe I should rephrase my unpopular opinion.
Yeah,
I love Primus.
Yeah.
So let me phrase it that way. I love Primus. They've had a couple of drummers. I love all their drummers. I think Les Claypool is the way that he plays bass. In terms of me being a drummer, I love it. He plays like a damn drum.
Yeah,
dude.
He's very percussive. Yeah.
He plays very percussively, and so once again bringing up my brother. I showed my brother a couple of their tunes, and my brother has damn near perfect pitch. He doesn't have perfect pitch, but he has pretty close. So in terms of musicality, he's more focused with his perfect pitch on the melodies and the harmonies and what's going on in that realm. Well, Primus doesn't got a whole lot of that going. They got a lot of percussive rhythmic ideas going on. So I showed him a couple songs, and he's asking me, okay, where's the chorus?
Yeah.
And the chorus is literally just an insane syncopated like riff. And so he wasn't really getting off to it that very much. But as a drummer, I love, and even, I mean, I'm not into the melodies and the harmonies as much as like other people are, but I love the dissonance that Les Claypool can get off the bass with he does a lot of tritones. Yeah. He does a lot of minor seconds, he does a lot of dissonance. I just love how rhythmically percussive that project is.
Totally, man. I mean, that's where you have to, like, for me, there's a lot of stuff that I don't connect with on like, a level where, first and foremost, if I love like a project, like a band, I have to like the music has to hit me beyond like a cerebral level, right?
So would you say that let me phrase this. What's your opinion on Primus?
I think that they are immensely creative and I think that they are all so talented. The music doesn't hit me in any kind of way. You know what I mean? It's the same way that I feel about like a lot of like metal stuff. Not all of it, but a lot of it, where it's just like it's I can appreciate the technical ability,
dude.
You know, the thought that went into the arrangements and you know and all that, but like it doesn't hit me, right? I don't know what it is, but I don't think anybody can describe what it is about any song or band that hits them, right? It's a spiritual thing. It hits you on that level. You connect with it. Some of the simplest, most boring shit is what I connect with. Some of the most complicated, out there shit I connect with. It just depends. And Primus, I just nothing's ever hit me from them, you know. So, but I give them all the credit in the world. They're super talented, you know, and super creative. I like people that push the envelope, you know.
Yeah. Chris, do you want to give? I know we've talked about this, Chris. Do you want to give your little quick opinion on? Primus?
It's like a massive respect thing. For what they've, creating art for art's sake is really what I look at Primus as, and like I just think that's so important for like the art community as a whole, specifically music as well. Like just being able to create whatever comes to your mind and putting it out, like not worrying about general public reaction, industry reaction, all that good stuff. So like, yeah, in that regard, I think they're awesome. But there is just so much music out there that I've just kind of gravitated toward like a different thing.
Sure.
I do know one of my favorite things is we sit down and look at music together all the time. And when we first had the Primus conversation, I'll never forget you showing me like a 20-minute long video of someone breaking down all of Les Claypool's bass lines.
Oh, I remember
and
that.
like was like, no, I'm gonna prove to you with science why this is the best bass player in the world. I can appreciate it, man. Like he's got
dude.
He's got like an unreal feel, like an unreal technique. But it's like Anton said, everything just hits people in a certain way that's not really quantifiable, and it just slightly missed me a little bit.
Okay, so just one more quick thing on the Primus thing. So I think one of the main reasons I truly respect Primus, other than their musicality, is because of their resemblance to Rush. In the sense that, so I grew up on Rush. My dad was a huge Rush fan. Neil Peart is basically the reason I got into drums. As a kid, every kid wants to impress their dad. I couldn't do it through sports or baseball. I kind of could, but I could really do it through, hey, Dad, I learned Tom Sawyer. I'm 16 years old.
Fuck yeah.
Check this out. So in the sense of that, I respect Primus in the sense that they don't sell out. They don't want to do what's popular or what's going to sell or what's going to give them the most views on TikTok, as I call it.
TikTok.
Yeah. And the Rush did the same thing.
Yeah.
Through the however many years, I'm the biggest Rush fan, dude. I can't stress that enough. But Rush never did what was popular. Rush never did what the record label... Dude, Rush had battles with the record label of what was popular, what they wanted them to do. But the musicality was the same. They did what they wanted to do.
Right, they stayed true to themselves.
And you could call them popular or unpopular. There was times, I mean, obviously with, Moving Pictures, Tom Sawyer, Red Barchetta, YYZ, all those... That was their biggest album, 1984. But there was a lot of albums, Grace Under Pressure, through the 80s and stuff like that, where they were very unpopular, but they did what they wanted to do. And I saw, Primus covered, what was the album that...
Farewell to Kings?
Farewell to Kings, which I missed in St. Augustine. I wanted to see. But in the sense, I feel like as an artist that I really respect Primus is the same reason I respect Rush because they did what they wanted to do. Yeah. They didn't sell out. And a lot of artists these days are just selling out.
Yeah.
A lot of artists, dude.
Yeah.
Totally. A lot of pop artists, like I'm just thinking off the top of my head, like another artist I really used to love and appreciate was Coldplay.
Yeah.
After, dude, Milo Xyloto, from then on, horrible. It just became a pop band. They were a sellout, in my opinion. They became a pop band and they were a sellout. But like their old albums were good.
Are they selling out or are they buying in?
I don't know.
This is the whole. We can go down that rabbit hole.
I know. I just wanted to add that one thing. I think that's why I like Primus.
I get you though. Yeah, there's a commitment to the art that you have to appreciate, and I love it. And I love that. Yeah, people that are pushing the envelope creatively and the commit. I had like on those grounds alone, I respect, and that's utmost respect. For
I think that's why one of the main reasons I like them.
Yeah, I can appreciate that for sure.
Hell yeah.
All right, so my unpopular opinion is that musicians using iPads to perform are fucking lame.
Oh shit, Chrissy chord sheets.
Now here's
no, lay it all out. Come on.
No, I love you, Chris.
Here's the caveat. Okay, if you're a gigging musician a hired gun playing in multiple ensembles throughout the week, month, year, whatever,
Chris,
then that's akin to using charts, with a, on a music stand, whatever. That doesn't bother me so much.
But
now,
if you're playing the same set list,
yes,
every single night,
what are you doing? And why don't you know these tunes yet? It's like.
And you're not, and also, guess what? You're not learning new tunes.
You're not retaining anything. You're just
because
outsourcing.
that's the same box, right?
Yeah.
The people that are using the chord charts and playing the same set list are not learning new tunes.
Yeah, they're not. No, I know, and there's no retention.
Oh.
There's no retention happening.
None.
You
Zero.
It's like you're just outsourcing your memory and your ability to memorize in general. Now.
But a lot of those people, like we talked about earlier, are okay with that.
I know it's a complacency thing. It's the whole thing we talked about. That it all circles back. Now,
which I can't stand.
Yeah. Now, if you're somebody that is very familiar and on top of the current pop trends as far as music goes, then I can understand keeping one on deck if someone requests a song.
Absolutely.
That maybe you've never played before, but you know it, right?
Absolutely.
Now, that's one thing. But that's not what I'm seeing all the time. What I'm seeing a lot of the time are people just, all right, guys, I'm doing this song. Here's the set. What are you doing, bro? What are you doing? And why? Just don't. Maybe do something else with your time. Then I don't know. Maybe this isn't for you.
Man, this is gonna get me going. Chris, I want to hear your opinion before I take off.
Look, I'm on board with pretty much all of that. You know what I mean? Like now,
this shit pisses me off, man.
What'd you call me again?
Chrissy Chord Sheets. But you're a different ball game, brother. You're a different ball game.
All I'll say is like I get called Chrissy Chord Sheets, but
I called you. Hey, I want to just take credit for that first of all.
I know you did.
But hey, Bob, I say that.
But I know exactly where I stand in the musical community.
And I know where you stand too. You're a different ball game.
For all kinds of sub gigs and one-offs. And
when you're subbing out and you're a hired gun, charts are fine. I have no problem with that.
Or somebody, or you're on a gig and somebody throws a new tune at you.
Yeah.
You should play it to the best of your ability. If that means using a chord chart for a tune you never played, then use it.
Sure, totally. I'd much rather play the song correctly and then get called back and then have a chance to learn the tune.
Totally.
Than just butcher it.
Yes.
For the person that just paid $20
we're on the same page
to
with that.
$100. Also like if we're putting like little small bits and pieces of value on like. I make all my own chord charts. I don't just download something off of Ultimate Guitar and then hope it's right. Like
that's what I was gonna say.
I sit down. It's like sketching it out by. I mean, I just got shit handwriting, so I sketch it out by hand.
That's part of transcribing.
It's like, and I'll have show notes on there. Like I'll have whatever if I need it for a gig or X and Y or whatever. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah, if it's and I don't know. Like, look at Bob Weir in the Grateful Dead. Like he's played that music for 50 odd years and goes on stage with an iPad every single night.
Yeah, but when you do that many drugs, there's something else going on there, bro. That's not a not a musicianship problem. Is
it a set list that he's looking at though, or is he looking up charts and lyrics?
Bro,
and
I could pull up a 2-hour compilation video of Bob Weir just singing.
When you do drugs at that level for that many years,
then just fucking stay home after that. You know what I mean? Like that's
another question of bands that should retire. U2's another one.
Yeah, just like like if you need. If you need a map to get from the green room to the stage, just fucking call it a night, man. Like
that's some fucking Spinal Tap shit, bro.
Call it a goddamn night.
That's facts.
So how do you feel about it?
Oh, I hate them.
Yeah.
What do you mean, my opinion, bro? I can't stand chord charts. Hey, on drums, am I sitting there with an iPad?
That's
hell.
That's the thing. It's just like
hold on. You also don't download the Spotify playlist until you get
easy
to the
on
gig.
me, brother. Yeah, well, everything's improv.
All right, hold on, Alex. Fuck off. You don't take
here we go.
Oh, you don't take your. What's the difference between a chord chart in front of me and your AirPods in your ear between every song hitting play on that thing?
Okay, I do that for the Patsy gigs every once in a while. But honestly, can I be honest with you with the AirPods thing? I need to find in-ears, but I use the AirPods because a lot of times I'm playing drums, my own drums, or I
yeah.
Let me talk.
You crack me up. Anyway.
I know. I don't like the overtones coming off the drums. I honestly like the in-ear sound that I get off the drums, because there's a lot of overtones that come off the drums that I don't like. So that's one of the main reasons I use the AirPods. And then there are a couple of gigs. Okay, dude, what's the difference between me using an AirPod for a gig that I have no idea what's going on and you using a chord sheet?
There's not one at all.
Exactly. So you're using a chord sheet.
But you just said, I don't use iPads and this and that, but I listen to Joe Rogan in the middle of my set.
I don't use. Okay, well, that was a little bit of exaggeration. But look, you're on a. Okay, no problem.
This is what happens in bands, guys.
Hey.
You're witnessing it live on the podcast.
Hey, somebody calls out a tune, you're on a gig, you don't know it, you're going to pull out your iPad. Somebody calls out a tune real quick, I'm going to listen, I'm going to have my AirPods in for other reasons, but I'm going to listen to the first 5 seconds of the song, get an idea of what's going on, and then I'm going to play the tune.
I
and
just tell people
that tempo change at the second chorus is going to fuck you.
Hey, I only listen to the first 5 seconds.
I just tell people that I don't know the song, I'm not going to play it.
Well, we're insane. So.
Oh, well, we just say, dude, I don't honestly, and I honestly respect for that. I don't think I've ever said that.
Yeah.
People are like, hey, you know this tune? Yeah.
Yeah. It's different for a drummer, though. You know what I mean?
That's true. I'm not playing changes.
Yeah, exactly.
So y'all are playing changes. Y'all are messing with the tonal center, this, that, and the other. If you want to stay diatonic or not, y'all are messing whatever genre of music y'all are dealing
Especially
with.
if it's a 3-piece and you're the only melodic instrument.
100%.
You know?
Drums. There's a little bit of leeway there, especially if you're big on improvisation and just listening to other people.
Yeah.
I think, and that's what it kind of gets to at that point, at least on drums, is okay. Do I kind of know this song? Sure. Most of those songs I don't know.
Right.
But I'm listening. I'm a listener.
That's all
I'm a listener.
That's important.
If you can listen to the people that are playing around you. And so a lot of times I'll joke with Chris and other people at gigs. They'll say, hey, do you know this tune? And I'll say, yeah, kind of. But as long as they know it, I know it. In the sense of I'm a listener. So if they know the tune and they know the changes, they know the feel. In my opinion, the drummer's the quarterback. As long as the other people know the tune well enough, just well enough to get by, I can listen, use my listeners, and then play off them.
Yeah, totally.
But in terms of chord sheets, I hate them.
And then you get in a band with me, and I'll just try to directly throw you off.
But that comes from that comes from people that, for whatever reason, a tune that I've played with them, and I know they've been playing for years before I joined the project as a hired gun. I know they know the tune. It's a 3-4 chord song. And, don't even get me... can we talk about this? Can we talk about artists that skip the bridges?
Ooh. That shit is so fucking basic, bro. Like, what are we doing here?
You literally have... And those are the same people that have the chart in front of them.
Yeah.
Dude, I play with... And those are your cover gigs. Those are you're just playing, you're playing a Casa Marina. You're playing all cover music. You're not doing any originals. That's not even part of the project.
Of course.
But dude, there's so many projects that just skip over the darn bridge, bro. And they have the chord sheet in front of them. It's like, dude, just learn the bridge.
And this is why they're low stakes and people undercut people all the time because nobody cares about anything. And we circle it back to the beginning of the podcast. That's why, like, being in towns like this sometimes where the opportunity to grow to something bigger isn't always so obvious. Yeah. It devalues not just us as musicians, but the art as a whole. That's, I think, really the overall point of this episode that I can confidently say. And we got to wrap this one up. We've been going a long fucking time. But
we can literally talk for another 4 hours about all this stuff. But please wrap it up.
I've so enjoyed this conversation.
I have too, man. And like I said, I know between me, you, and Chris, our friendship, and we could literally sit here until 5 a.m, drink whiskey, and talk about this.
Totally.
But if you need to wrap it up, let's wrap it up, dude. Because we could keep going on this stuff.
Totally. But no, we'll do this again because there's more to talk about.
Oh, please! Right? I'd love to come back and chat with y'all.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here, bro. Especially last minute. This is so much fun.
Yeah, it's been great, dude. Thanks for having me.
On that note, it's been Bottom of the Bill. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Oh yeah. That's good stuff, man.